time away. I know we're kind of getting back into the swing of things a little bit. That's okay. Okay, we're good to go. Good to go. Ben Kenny has made the funny thing is, Ben, you didn't have the travel problems that a lot of people are still having, did you?
None at all, Bill. It was a great experience. It was efficient. It was enjoyable. And I'm very grateful. I do not take that for granted because I've seen all of the disasters around the country.
Oh, my God. I still have friends that are stuck. Apparently, Southwest Airlines sucks and has whatever it is. I saw that a friend of mine put out some kind of quote from an employee there that said it was their software, it was the weather, it was God himself came down off the mountain and said that Southwest will stink this entire week. They're not going to be able. They went to South Padre Island with Southwest, and they were supposed to come back on Sunday. And then it was Monday. Then it was today. And now they're being told they will not make it home at least until Saturday or Sunday. And Southwest is trying to figure out how they're going to pay for all these people that are stuck. Now it's a hell of a place to be stuck, but when you got to be back this week to work, it's it's not great. But there are people stuck. I saw the news teams yesterday, both nationally and locally. Everybody was camped out at the airport. And all the people that were in line that were stuck, that had flights canceled. And apparently New York is really, really bad. I know western upstate New York is awful. Buffalo area is awful. The amount of snow they've gotten again. They already had like 6 feet. And now they got 2.5, 3 more feet dumped on them. I can't even imagine that. Can't fathom it. But they did. And so they've got even more snow. And then between that and then the blowing wind, and they said they had hurricane force winds. And it's like, wow, that's a mess. That's a nightmare up there right now. So anyway, that being said, man, I'm glad you got home safe. So there you have it. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. If you want to find us, please feel free to do so. Packers get a win over the weekend, as we know. And now it is up to 25% for the Green Bay Packers getting themselves into the postseason if they get a win. If they get a win against the Vikings, it goes up to 56.5%. 56.5% if they beat the Vikings come this Sunday. What a turn of events. They still have to win, and it's going to be a tough task. And the good news is it's not going to be terrible weather. The bad news is it's not going to be terrible weather. It's not going to be unbelievably cold. You kind of like it cold for teams that play in domes that don't have to deal with the weather. Then again, they live in it, so it's not like they're not accustomed to it. But it's not going to be bad. It's actually, as the week goes on, it's going to warm up. We're talking 50s on Friday, 40s on Saturday into the new year, and then upper 30s, mid 30s, then coming up on Sunday. So it's not going to be a terrible weekend. Not at all. So, now the speculation begins. Can this team get a win? Can they knock off Minnesota? I believe they can. I actually looked at this. Ben, if I had to give you the two games, Miami on the road or Minnesota at home, which were of the two games did you feel was the tougher?
Miami, and partially because of what we have seen from the Packers going to Florida and the matchup of Miami's passing game and Joe Barry's defense. I was all in that boat. But after what we saw on Sunday, I do think when it's all said and done, the Vikings will prove to be the tougher test because they don't have Tua under center.
Yeah, see, I thought that the Vikings would be the tougher test at home because the Vikings destroyed them up in Minnesota. I mean, embarrassed them. And if you're a Packer and you're getting ready for practice, or maybe you're off today and you're going to be back at it tomorrow, and you've got a defensive mind to you, you were embarrassed in Minnesota. Your offensive line stunk. Rodgers was under pressure all day, and Justin Jefferson could still be catching passes if he wanted to do so. You were embarrassed. That was a terrible performance. You never were in that game. And obviously Christian Watson going down now with a hip injury, and we'll wait and see if he even comes close to being able to play. It's just when you start to believe in the kid, he's just turning up to be fragile. I don't know how else to put it. Just fragile as a football player. So it looks like he's at least for the time being. Now I have not heard. Have you heard an update on him, by the way?
No, I have not.
Yeah, I haven't either. So I don't know if Mike. I just heard Mike Clemens on with Evo and those guys this morning. Didn't really mention as to whether or not he heard anything either. So now we'll wait and see. But yeah, it's disappointing. You cannot keep him and Romeo Doubs on the same field at the same time. It's just it's tough. Now the Packers still got to win, and which is fantastic. But this is the reason, and I know going into next season, some people were saying, well, they really don't need to go out and get themselves a free agent because, Christian Watson is so good. No, they do. This is the reason why. You need to go find a guy, a very solid, durable performer, and another good pass catcher, because you cannot rely on Christian Watson to stay healthy. He doesn't stay healthy. And that's part of the problem. It's great to say that you have that talent in your stable, but if he's going to go down every time he gets touched, it's it's tough to have a guy like that because you rely on him. You have expectations, you have anticipation. You love watching him play. You love watching his speed. You love his glide. You love his motion. You love his pass catching ability, the whole thing. And then when he finally gets going, the inevitable is coming, and that is going to be where he's going to miss time because of an issue. So anyway, that being said, if you want to chime in, feel free. Go ahead and hit us up, 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Out of the two games, out of the Minnesota game and the Miami game, I don't know why, but I had this weird feeling that they would win in Miami. And can we now put the whole Florida thing to bed? Because they've won 2 games in Florida, in Tampa Bay and in Miami this year. Can we now officially put that to bed? Or is that still a thing? Is that still a thing, Ben? Where we can, people say, well, they go to Florida, they're not going to play well. I don't think you can say that anymore.
I think it could be shown next time LaFleur's at the podium when they're going to Florida, whether he is asked about their bad record in Florida.
Yeah.
Those are the things that extend the narrative.
Yeah. I don't know what else to throw out there. You're 2 for 2 in the state of Florida this year. I'd call that pretty much a dead myth at this point. And you're 2 for 2 with really not that great of a football team. So I'd call that a dead myth at this point. I always thought the Vikings would be the tougher team because it's a divisional rival. The Vikings are up for this game. The Vikings don't want to allow the Packers into the postseason because it could end up being that the Packers turn around and face them in round 1 of the playoffs. You don't want that. You don't want that third visit, that familiar foe, so to speak. I don't, and I know they're going to say the tip. Oh, we don't want anybody to see the Green Bay Packers come into your house and be the team to knock you off and add that level of anxiety to your week going in. You don't need that. You'd rather face somebody else. Absolutely sure. Now, as fans, if the game goes in your favor, you're like, oh, yes, we got the Packers and we beat them. Yeah, I agree with that. But I think the anxiety leading up to that, the anticipation leading up to that week, that'd be crazy. Be absolutely bananas. 877-867-1670. This is from Tim says it was 45 degrees in Miami, so that helped the Green Bay Packers. I would probably say, yeah, second coldest game in Miami. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. It certainly wasn't normal Miami weather, that's for sure. And how about that? How about this? That Tua goes into the concussion protocol yesterday. So Teddy Bridgewater is going to be taken over for the team until Tua comes back. But he's now in the concussion protocol for the second time this season and probably concussed for the third time this season. Remember, he looked like he was concussed in that game where they said he had back issues, and we all knew that was full of crap. And then the very next game, he played against Cincinnati and was given the West Side Boys peace sign when he went down to the ground and had his fingers all locked up. So we know he was concussed, and then he went into the concussion protocol for a while. I don't know what play it happened in that game against the Packers. Go ahead.
People have posted a first half It was that little flip out to Gesicki when he was being brought down by a Packers defender, hit the back of his head as he got tackled. But that was at the end of the first half.
Right. So he didn't have a really good second half. We can all agree on that. I don't know how much that did or didn't play into this whole thing, but maybe it wasn't until the next day that he actually felt the symptoms when he woke up, probably ended up having a, headache or what have you. But he walked into the facility yesterday, said he didn't feel good, didn't feel right, went into the protocol. They gave him the baseline test, and sure enough, it seems like he had been concussed. So Tua is now out, or at least, in the protocol right now. We'll wait and see if he is able to play this week. Most likely not, because this is his third concussion this season. But it was interesting because I was listening this morning. I was flipping around. I had some meetings this morning, so I was out driving around. I was flipping around in the, Sirius XM, and I'm listening to all the different sports talk stations. And boy, people are blaming, the NFL for this, and blaming, for the Miami Dolphins and their medical staff for not seeing. If you don't notice a guy visibly wobbly or anything like that, how can you then, if the player's not going to come to you and say, hey, something's wrong, and you don't notice anything, and nobody notices anything, his offensive lineman didn't notice anything, nobody said anything. It was the next day that he came in and said, hey, I have a headache, and they put him in the protocol. If you don't notice anything, how can you blame the NFL or the Dolphins? If you don't notice anything at all, how do you blame the NFL for that issue? Because the only thing they can rely upon is the actual player to go to the coaches and or the doctors and say, hey, just give me a quick check here, because I'm feeling a headache or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how you can then turn around and blame the NFL. But there are some players, obviously, that are blaming the NFL for saying that, quarterbacks are getting hit, and then they're going to have Tua now because he's been concussed for a third time. Now everybody's going to start throwing the flags to protect the quarterbacks. I don't necessarily believe that. So people are blaming the NFL. Oh, well. He was Michael said after that hit, he was 7 of 13, 81 yards and a couple of picks. Okay. Now, the one pick that everybody is saying, oh my God, he just airmailed it. If you go back and watch the film, and I hate to say that because that's what Matt LaFleur says. Actually, Rasul Douglas did a great job of baiting him into that throw, that second pick. He did a great job of baiting him into all of that. He ended up, he played it as if he was going to break forward and across, and instead he backed up as Tua was getting into his motion. He kind of baited him into that throw. But to me, it was a really great play. It's a very, very good play, rather than Tua just, airmailing a football because he had a concussion, which is what a lot of people wanted to, make it out to be. And don't forget, in the grand scheme of things, Tua had 3 picks. So, yeah, he threw 2 after the concussion, but what about prior to that? He had one earlier, too. He had 1 touchdown, three picks, and he only threw 25 pass attempts to begin with. Mostert also had the fumble. And Campbell made a terrific play and a terrific reach to come up with that football and make the play. So, anyway, I just thought it was rather interesting. Pre-concussion, he was 9 of 12, 229 yards. He was having a big day, had the 1 touchdown. But they said the post-concussion, according to Warren Sharp, was he had 3 interceptions after what they believed to be was the significant hit. He was 7 of 13, 81 yards, 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Also, let's not forget that, believe it or not, Joe Barry made an adjustment, specifically at half. They stopped playing soft zone consistently. They started bringing different rushes from different areas. And instead of playing what they call that Miller defense, where they had the outside linebacker or the inside linebackers working towards the outside and kind of giving up the middle, they put them back in the middle, started bringing pressure from the outside, keeping Tua in the pocket. And they also were mixing it up as to whether or not they were going to bring Coy Walker whether it was defending the run and bringing them up or dropping Devondre Campbell back or vice versa. They also changed some things defensively. So I'm not going to say, because nobody noticed it. Was it there? Absolutely. I'm not denying that. But people are making it out to be like, well, had he not got concussed, the Packers don't even win that game. Did you notice, Ben, that it's like if the Packers would have lost this game, it's all the Packers' fault. Joe Barry sucks. Matt LaFleur sucks. Everybody sucks. Rodgers sucks. Everything sucks. But if they win the game, they didn't win it. It's because Tua gave the game away.
Yeah, I've heard that. It did feel like a game, though, that both teams should have won by double digits.
Right.
Where each were there and each squandered so many opportunities to really blow the game away, whether it be for the Dolphins when they were up 10 and the Packers when they could have, kept scoring late to extend a bigger lead.
Right.
So, yes, I did hear that, though. I see what you're saying.
It just bothers me that, we want to, my argument is, and the one thing we've always done on this show is, if the Packers suck, we've pointed it out. I don't have a problem with that. I've never been corrected on that. They've never told me to shut up on that. As long as we're being honest and not being personal, that it is what it is. But if you try to give credit to anybody, the haters hate. There are people out there that are just innately unhappy unless they're going to win a Super Bowl. And even if they win a Super Bowl, they want to point out how wrong you are because they didn't win by 40 or 60 or 90. They're just mad. There are always people that are going to point out, yeah, but, and that's fine. But don't be so ignorant and obstinate that you can't give credit where credit is due. They did mix things up. Those guys did make plays. The Packers did score. Their offense still needs work. They were not good. And winning this game, yes, the defense won the game. And people don't want to admit that either. Remember, the Packers didn't give up a point in the second half. There's something to be said for that, too. Even, Tua wasn't running the football. They couldn't run the football. The Packers tackling got better. They flew to the football better. So for all the times that they ran the football, and now they were throwing the football quite a bit because they had to because the Packers took the lead. But for all the times that they ran the football, that wasn't Tua. Mostert 8 carries, 45 yards. Early on, he was gashing them. And then all of a sudden, they shut him down. Wilson, 9 carries, 37 yards. They rushed for a total of 82 yards. We were worried about the rushing game. We were worried about the offensive line. Waddle still had 5 catches, 84-yard touchdown. You take that out of the ball game, it's a completely different game. That was just an incredibly poor play, broken play. Tyreek Hill, 4 catches, 103 yards, never down to the end zone. That's all you wanted. Don't let him in the end zone. So it just, the Packers were still, their defense held them to 28.6% on third down. It's not a bad way to go. And, oh, by the way, go back to the first half. The Dolphins were 1 of 4 on third down, 25%. Now, the Packers were 1 of 8, 12.5%. The biggest issue coming out of this game was not the fact that the Packers gave up 20 points in the first half. It was the fact that the offense couldn't punch the ball in the end zone. Their red zone offense sucks. Matt LaFleur was not creative and was disheveled when it came to play calling. It was just sporadic. It was goofy. It looked dysfunctional. It's this damn shotgun he's got to run all the freaking time is a joke. It's not creative. I'm literally calling the plays as I sat here and tweeted them out. I was calling the Packers offense. If you were a defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, you could see I was calling their offense. This is what they're going to run. Shotgun, do a little fake that isn't even a fake, and then they're going to pass the ball off to the left-hand side. And look, tap, 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 and then all of a sudden it's going to break down. You could just see what they were going to do. And they don't give A.J. Dillon a chance running him out of shotgun all the damn time. It's the dumbest thing. It's not creative. And back when they did run play action, which was beautiful to Big Dog, they hit him in the end zone for a touchdown. Beautiful. And they do it sporadically. I don't know why, but Aaron Rodgers is one of the best play fakers in all of football when they run play action. And they just refuse to do it. I can't believe anybody that's considered this offensive guru like Matt LaFleur is, that he's that ignorant. Because when they do it, it's done to perfection. Yeah, I know every now and then you got to run certain plays to set things up. I understand all of that. But this whole thing of just standing in shotgun, faking that handoff, here you go, and no motion, no nothing. It's a lame offense. And it was bad. It was a bad offense. And that's the reason they got stuck in the red zone so often. That's the reason they were kicking field goals rather than punching it in. Any other apt offense of any kind would have blown the Miami Dolphins out, and the Packers didn't. So that's where we are today. Do you have belief that the Packers can beat the Vikings coming up on Sunday at Lambeau Field? Stay tuned. This whole portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. They're the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We'll be back right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Ho, 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 I need a window.
Baby, it's cold outside.
So where do I go? Ho, ho.
Come on, Santa. Go to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Now is the time to replace your leaky windows and doors. You and Mrs. Claus can get your new windows while putting no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. Unwrap this gift now, but pay for it 2 years later.
More jingle that stays in my pocket.
That's right, Santa. Plus, our elves install year-round and in as little as 1 day. Pella offers lines in luxurious wood to fiberglass and vinyl.
Why not make a New Year's resolution today?
That's the spirit, Santa.
Hella no, pay later. Ho, ho.
Absolutely. Put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. But you have to hurry. Offer ends December 31st. Schedule your free consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Sure, Mr. License for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
That is exactly. Found a way. And that's what good teams do.
Family on three. 1, 2, 3. Family.
Welcome back to the program. Hey, don't forget, coming up tomorrow night, the Bill Michaels Huddle back out on the road. We're going to be at Club Paragon on Highway 100 in Greenfield. Come on out tomorrow night. Club Paragon tomorrow night, brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. And always love Club Paragon. Really looking forward to that. Good place. A lot of fun as we get ready to, push football into the new year. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You want to hit us up, feel free to go ahead and do so. Again, 877-867-1670. Let's get to the phone calls. Let's do that. Let's go to Tyler listening to us in Buffalo. Tyler, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Doing good, Bill. How's it going?
Doing great. What's on your mind?
Not much. I talked to you on Friday, and it looks like Joe Barry actually knows how to make a second half adjustment there. That's what I said on Friday. You have to play press man and get in these guys' face, and you can't just let them. You can't play the two shell zone all game. Now the question is will he learn his lesson and actually do the same thing to Justin Jefferson? Because you can't just let that guy. You can't just leave him in the zone because he's gonna tear you apart.
No, I would agree with that. The big thing with the crossing pattern was the problem in that game against the Vikings. It seemed like, and it didn't matter where Justin Jefferson was on the field, if it was second down and 5 or second down and 20. It just, the crossing pattern killed him. He would catch it in about a 10 to 15 yard, jaunt and then take off for another 20. And he just would seem to burn them all the time. And then finally they got open a couple of times downfield. I would put Jair on. Remember, that was the game Jair said.
23, shadow him.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the game Jair said, I wanted him, and they didn't want to give him to me. And that to me was almost unforgivable. So now we'll see if Joe Barry learned his lesson at all in this upcoming game. No doubt.
If he didn't, then there's no way they can win.
Right. No, I would agree with that.
He's going to cook them for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yep. 100%. 877-867-1670. Thanks for the phone call. 877-867-1670. Let's go, Mike, listening to us in Cudahy. Mike, welcome to the program, man. What's going on?
Hey, good morning, Bill. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I was listening to you previous segment. You were so spot on when you're talking about the shotgun and, third down. And, when you're that predictable, I mean, our defense plays a soft zone. So all you got to do is throw underneath, and we're giving them third downs all the time. And then they could flood our zones up at the top. I mean, you just got to be creative. But as far as this upcoming game, Bill, with the Vikings, I think there's a little bit of angst and payback coming. And I think these two teams are not the same two teams when they previously met for the first time. I think what's going to happen is I think this is going to be a great game. I think the Packers will come out ahead. They will win based on, the chemistry is better with the Pack now as before. And they've grown a lot, and they're healthier. And I think, like you say, one of the components are peaking, and they're a little bit of luck too. But I think they're going to squeak into the playoffs, and then who knows what happens after that. And I think that my expectations are high. I think based on if they keep performing the way they did, there's no doubt in my mind they're going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call. I love the optimism. If they play to their capability, and two things need to happen. This is what needs to happen for the Packers to get themselves into the postseason. One is Matt LaFleur has to figure out the offense and the play calling. obviously you want to get Christian Watson back, and you'd love to get David Bakhtiari back and such. Okay, all of that. But he has to figure out the play calling. It looked disjointed. It looked dysfunctional. It looked like it just was stale in the first half of that game against Miami. And the red zone offense between you, me, and the fence post sucks. Was terrible. Okay. Secondly, for Mr. Gray to go in and start chewing the ass of the defense at halftime of both the game against the Bears and the game against Miami, where's Joe Barry? Is he not a motivator? I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just checking. Is he not a motivator? But the defense comes to life seemingly when they get chewed out in the second half, I guess. You go into halftime and you look at it and you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, maybe, Jerry Gray, the defensive backs coach, if Jerry Gray starts chewing on us, okay, maybe then we'll start playing well. Where's Joe Barry? He's supposed to be your leader. Is he just not a motivator? I just thought I'd ask it. When you got Jerry Gray being the guy that's called out to say, Jerry Gray's the guy that got in our ass. Jerry Gray's the guy that fired us up. Jerry Gray's the guy that kind of told us what's going on. Where's your coordinator? Just thought I'd throw it out there. Just another notch against the milquetoast, passive, soft-ass zone Joe Barry. You got to figure that out too. Let's do this. We're going to step away, take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get into all this. Hey, coming up tonight, good stuff. Milwaukee Admirals back on the ice, home ice tonight. Heading down to that game, as a matter of fact. If you're going to head down to the Admirals game, or any Admirals game for that matter, go to MilwaukeeAdmirals.com. That is MilwaukeeAdmirals.com for all the hockey action down at the UW Panther Arena. And there's shuttles from all over the place that go down to that particular game or to the Admirals games or Marquette games or UW Panther games or whatever happens to be going on downtown, Bucks games. But the Admirals are on home ice tonight. Looking forward to it. You got Bucks tonight or Marquette tonight, Admirals tonight. Downtown's going to be a buzz, downtown Milwaukee. Going to the Admirals, checking it out, whether it's single game tickets, the rest of the season, promotional tickets, specialty groups, whatever. Go to MilwaukeeAdmirals.com. That's MilwaukeeAdmirals.com.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Dress to the nines and get ready to shine because this New Year's Eve, it's showtime at Potawatomi Casino Hotel. We've got an all-night bash featuring live entertainment and a champagne toast. Plus, with hundreds of slots and table games to play, the excitement never ends. Oh, and don't worry about parking. We've got you covered with free structure parking. This New Year's Eve, begin with a win at Potawatomi. More info at paysbig.com. Must be at least 21 years old. All schedules subject to change. Management reserves all rights.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Social House, HAUS, over there on Lisbon Road in Menominee Falls. Great for watching any sporting event in that cozy atmosphere with food. Yeah, they have the highly acclaimed cheese burger over there at the Social House. And get this, you buy a drink on Sunday morning, free pancakes. So when we're all getting up on New Year's Day, free pancakes. Not a bad way to go. That's our friends over there at the Social House, HAUS on Lisbon Road in Menominee Falls. 877-867-1670. Let's go to Mike listening to us in Whitewater. Mike, how you doing today, man? What's up?
Good morning, Bill. You kind of took my thunder away. I was going to ask you about Gray ripping them new ones at halftime, and I agree with you about Barry. Then why is your defensive backfield coach ripping them new ones? Where's Barry? And secondly, wasn't Gray up for the defensive coordinator's job when he hired Barry?
He was one of the guys that could be considered, absolutely, but he didn't ultimately get the job. There was that friendship that they had between those two. But I get it. Position coaches can get you fired up if they're that fiery kind of guy. It's happened before. But still, I'm thinking to myself, where is your coordinator? I mean, I go back to Mike Pettin. Mike Pettin was a fiery guy. Mike Pettin would get in guys' rear ends. Dom Capers didn't. Other guys did. You look at guys since then. You go back to Slocum and all those guys that were special teams guys. They weren't fiery guys. It was positional coaches that were. So it's not all the time, but boy, you'd like to see your coordinator, a guy that's really under the gun, be the guy that gets you fired up rather than one of your assistants.
2 more questions, Bill. What do you think? We all know Barry's got to go. Do you think Gray would be considered?
I think he would be considered. I don't think he'd get the job.
Okay,
I just think if they go after a defensive coordinator, they're going to go after a guy that's probably out in the market, that's probably got a lot of street cred, because they're going to do this to try to, kind of put everything together for over the next 2 years and then call it a career.
Okay, my next question, with Hackett being fired, do you think they bring him back and then move Stenovich to the offensive line guy again and Butkus as assistant?
That's a great question. I appreciate it, Mike, as always. I look at it as I'd love to see Nathaniel Hackett and have that brain trust back again, especially for the fact that Nathaniel Hackett was kind of one of Aaron Rodgers', confidants, so to speak. But it's hard to take a guy and demote them in the league. It very rarely happens, but it can. I mean, Bill Belichick certainly has done it, right? He's done it numerous times and had a guy or a coordinator, somebody that he lost. Who knows? Maybe McDaniel ends up back on the open market again if they decide maybe next year to kind of can him out there in Las Vegas and get rid of him as far as the Raiders go. And maybe they bring him back again. It's not to say it's out of the realm of possibility. That's for sure. Or maybe he becomes like the offensive, he's above the coordinator. He becomes like the offensive assistant of, the assistant head coach or something like that of the offense. I mean, they create titles all the time if you can bring a guy back. So who knows? Maybe they could bring Nathaniel Hackett back. I wouldn't mind seeing it. That's for sure. But I don't know if they would actually do that or not. 877-867-1670. This is from Mark, who says the next 2 games are going to determine whether Packers really deserve to be there. Obviously, they're going to have to beat the Minnesota Vikings, but it's going to be a playoff atmosphere if it comes down to Detroit or Green Bay getting in at Lambeau Field. Well, let's be honest. The Packers, here's the difference, because everybody says, well, it's the regular season versus the postseason. Packers are in the postseason. You're in do or die right now. Okay? So, in essence, you are in the postseason. The difference is when people say, well, they are in the playoffs. Yes and no. Yes, they are, because for their postseason life. But they will still have games. If they lose this game against Minnesota, their postseason hopes are pretty much gone. But they still have another game to play. Whereas you get to the postseason, you lose, there is no tomorrow. The only reason you're going into the facility the next day is to clean out your locker. If you would have lost this past week or you lose this coming weekend, then, you still got another game. You're not going to go to the postseason, but you still got another game. Whereas postseason comes with a different level of tension, so to speak. Not to say they don't have it, because they do. I just think when you get to the postseason, it's just a different, amped up level of energy. It just is. There's a different feel to it. Even the fans feel it. The fans showing up to tailgate. And here's the one thing that's interesting. How much or how well will Packers fans travel? God forbid they get Minnesota. What are those tickets going to be like over there in Minnesota? How many Packers fans are going to be traveling to Minnesota? Oh, can't wait. Can't wait to find out. 877-867-1670. But yeah, right now you are playing, quality football teams, and you just beat a quality football team. You beat a team that still could end up in the postseason. So for people that say, well, they've only beaten bad teams, they beat the hell out of the Cowboys. They went toe-to-toe for the most part with Philadelphia. They played decently against Buffalo. And then, sure, they beat Chicago twice. They beat a really bad Rams team, but then they went into Miami and they beat Miami, right? I don't fault them for that. You can only play the teams on your schedule. 877-867-1670. Stay tuned. We got a lot more coming up right after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers reviewed the tape of their win over the Dolphins. Green Bay added some players to their injury list. Right tackle Josh Schneiman, a shoulder injury. Return man Keyshawn Nixon, a groin. And Matt LaFleur asked about if Christian Watson will be able to practice tomorrow with a hip injury.
No, yeah, he will be day-to-day, and we'll see how he progresses throughout the week. And certainly he is a difference maker out there.
What about Keyshawn and Josh?
I put all those guys in the same boat.
In Miami, Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa is in the concussion protocol again after having symptoms the day after the game. He's now under observation. Up next, the Packers host the Vikings, who beat the Giants on a last-second field goal from 61 yards out. Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell.
There's a lot of things that we can do better. A lot of things coaches can do better, but no better feeling than doing it after you're winning your 12th game of the season, still with 2 to go.
And Packers left guard Elton Jenkins talked with reporters about signing his new contract extension with the team worth an estimated $68 million.
You know, the team always told me, the coaches and the people upstairs always told me how much they liked me, how much they wanted me to be here. So I wanted to be here as well. So I feel like, you know, someone's going to get done. You know, the time just had to be right. You know, we just had to get everything right and agree to terms.
What's the first thing you did after?
I called my mom.
That's Packers left guard Elton Jenkins. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
.com. That's CunisRV.com. Let's get back to the phone calls. Let's talk to our buddy Gerard listening to us in Delaware. Gerard, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Hey, Bill, I guess LaFleur said all those guys are day-to-day, so we don't know what that means anyway.
Yeah,
so,
we don't know. He's going to check the tape and let us know.
You know, as far as Watson, you know, I hate to say the word soft, you know what I mean? But he's a key, a big key to the offense because he clears the field so they could do crossing patterns and underneath stuff, and he could take it anytime, anywhere. He's that quick. And he has to stay on the field. I think I tweeted that to you. I said the guy has to stay on the field. And there's a couple other things. You talk about turnovers. Now, they had, 4 turnovers against the Dolphins, and how many points did they score off those turnovers? How we can't forget the 4 turnovers that we got against the Bucs, and what we get 3 points out of all those turnovers.
Yep.
And then there's a couple other things. If they don't get a pass rush on Cousins, he's going to kill them. The only way they beat Minnesota is when they really get a pass rush. Remember, Za'Darius Smith, who's on their team now, he got about 4 or 5 sacks against them in that one game. And I don't know if you watched the San Diego game last night with their safety putting that big hit on the receiver, and they threw him out of the game.
Yeah, no, I did not, but I heard about it this morning. I saw the highlight this morning.
Oh, it was huge. It was a big hit. But, back in the day, that was nothing.
That was allowed.
Normal. Yeah, that was allowed. That's fine. But you see, the problem is, Bill, and you were talking about this before with the concussion stuff and every other injuries. You get all these networks on, and they get all these. They're so sanctimonious, and they're hand wringing and all this other stuff. And like you said, they're always blaming somebody else. They're always it's the owner's fault, or it's this fault, or that fault. Things happen sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't help that. You get tackled, you hit your head.
Right.
This is. Come on now. What are you supposed to do? Is the ref supposed to run up and put a pillow underneath before you hit the ground? I don't understand this.
It's
you're right. Remember this.
You're very right when you say sanctimonious. It's a lot of former players that want to blame the NFL. Because I usually agree with Ryan Clark. He does a lot of good things, but today he wanted to blame the NFL. And I said, there's no way. He's right in the sense that the NFL doesn't want to see a lot of the high-end, big name quarterbacks out. They want to see, as the playoffs approach, they want to see those big name quarterbacks in, and they want to see good matchups. And I agree with that. But to act as if somehow this whole thing for Tua to get tackled and not report that he had to end the next day, and nobody knows how you blame the NFL for that. It's like, no, the NFL has gotten a lot softer, has gotten a lot more protective of the players. It just has. Innately, it has. And now they're talking about taking it even further with this whole targeting thing like they do in college, which I completely disagree with, because it becomes more, you don't know what's in the guy's head or heart when he makes a hit, and now you're going to determine that by throwing him out of a game, which I think is garbage. So this whole thing about you got to blame somebody no, the guy got hit. He fell down, hit his head, didn't tell anybody. Maybe didn't even feel the symptoms until the next day. You don't even know. And all of a sudden it's the NFL's fault. I think it's garbage. I think it's, clearly guys with an axe to grind because they feel like pieces of meat, which I've always said, they always feel like a piece of meat until it's a business on their side and they want to get paid. Then all of a sudden it's a business. And that's always been something that's bothered me when it comes to the sanctimonious and more so hypocritical side of players when it comes to the NFL.
Yeah, it's like that. But my point is, you're talking about that targeting stuff and the whole bit and everything that happens in college. How many times are those guys going down and the guy's going to throw his shoulder and he ends up going helmet to helmet?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Do you see that? It happens all the time. You can't have that in the NFL.
No.
I mean, come on now. This is ridiculous. Look, I know sometimes I'm over the top, old school and whatever. But if you don't want to play the game, don't play the game. But you got to understand, when you go out there and play, it's a physical game. You're going to get your clock cleaned a couple of times in your career. This is what's going to happen.
Right.
So that, and I can't agree with you more that about the Packer offense. They get so many turnovers, they don't score off the turnovers. They don't. They really don't.
They have not been able to. Their offense has been pretty. Gerard, thanks for the phone call. Their offense has been pretty inept all season. And whether it's Rodgers locking on a guy, which Rodgers took that sack early on in this game, and the game against Miami should have never taken that sack. Granted, it happened in a bang-bang play, but he's got to be better than that. If he's the smartest guy in the room, as he claims to be and everybody else claims to be, he's got to know. You toss that ball to the back end of the end zone. You just whale it. You don't take that sack. Twice he had guys open underneath, refused to take him, tried to force it in further downfield. Rather than Robert Tonyan was so wide open at one point, which I don't know how you didn't see him because you were looking down that direction anyway. because you threw the ball over Tanyan to throw it another 15 yards downfield to try to force it to Romeo Doubs. And ended up being an incomplete pass. But you had Robert Tanyan wide open. Now, granted, it was, I think, like a 2nd and 10 or something like that. And he was only about 7 yards. But Tanyan, all he needed to do was catch the football and fall forward. That was it. And he would have ended up picking up the first down. Sometimes we can talk about Matt LaFleur and the play calling, but there were a couple of times in that ball game where that was all on Aaron Rodgers. That was all on Rodgers. We'll talk more about that when we come back. 1 hour down, we got more to
I'm Ebo.
Menominee, Marinette, Shawano, Clintonville, our friends in Platteville as well. Good to have everybody. Milwaukee, all on the network. Good stuff. 877-867-1670. Okay, here you go. I'm going to be done with it. I'm going to cut to the chase. I just put it out. Poll question over on Twitter. Poll question over on Twitter. I want you to go and answer it. Packers fans, where do you give the credit for the Packers win against the Dolphins? Did the Packers actually play better, or did Tua give the game away? That's the question right now over on Twitter. You answer that question. 877-867-1670. You can call us. 877-867-1670. Hit us up on Twitter. Find us over on the Facebook fan page. Go to facebook.com/The Bill Michaels Show. You can find our buddy Ben Kenny producing the program at Ben Z Kenny. You can find us on YouTube under Bill Michaels Show. The same over there on Twitch TV. You can email the program, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. That's thebillmichaels@gmail.com. You can also find us on the website, which is simply billmichaels.com. thebillmichaels.com. That's thebillmichaels.com. Did Tua give the game away, or did the Packers just play better? That's it. I'll touch base back with you on that coming up here in a little bit. I don't know. I'm just kind of tired of the kind of defending the Packers for getting the win. If teams make mistakes and you take advantage of it and you get a win, that's what you're supposed to do. Now, think about this. The Packers didn't capitalize hugely on the mistakes. The offense was relatively inept. There's nothing to feel great about regarding the offense. Nothing. They couldn't capitalize. They couldn't punch it in consistently. Aaron Rodgers didn't have some Aaron Rodgers-esque game. He had a touchdown. Yeah, he threw that one to Big Dog. Fantastic. Had a really ugly interception. 24-38, 238 yards. You take away the interception, the quarterback rating's drastically different. But they didn't run the ball with an incredible abandon. They ran it for 3.2 yards per carry. They didn't even hardly utilize Aaron Jones. Now, Aaron Jones had an ankle injury coming into the game, and he gutted it out. But he had 3 touches in the first half of this game. 3. 2 runs and a pass catch. 3. It was shotgun, pass. That's all it was. It was boring. It was uncreative. It was bad. It was a poorly called game. Matt LaFleur should be ashamed of himself. Had this team had any form of play calling, maybe it's better. But think about it. They won in spite of all of that. Rodgers played a bad game, and the play calling sucked, and they still won the ball game. Does that make them a bad team? Or does that make them a good team that overcame their own ineptitude? Think about it. 877-867-1670. That's which I think is probably a more fair of a question. Let's go to Pat listening to us in Green Bay. Pat, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you. A couple comments on what we were talking about. Okay, of course, I'm watching the game on TV, but it looked to me like the Dolphins were daring the Packers to throw the ball because they kept one safety up and one safety back. Normally, when the Packers play because they respect Rodgers enough, both safeties are back the whole entire game.
Mm-hmm.
So just looking at it, it seemed like they were daring the Packers to throw the ball. I saw the other safety, what few times I could see, was out near the line of scrimmage. So they were kind of not forcing us, but daring us to throw the ball over the middle or wherever we wanted to. Okay, second comment in here is, Tua, I don't know if he took a bad hit in the third quarter or banged his head or whatever, but didn't it seem like the first half, like he couldn't miss? He was kind of slicing and dicing us. In the second half, all of a sudden, he's throwing the ball over the place. Do you think maybe he was concussed and he didn't want to admit it or didn't realize it and just started throwing the ball all over the place? Because some of those throws weren't even close.
Right.
And the way he played the first half, watching him, he doesn't have great arm strength. He just has, receivers that are great anticipation. Maybe that's part of practice, whatever. But the second half, especially that fourth quarter, it seemed like he was just way off. And I'm thinking that might have been a head situation right there, and he didn't want to admit it, didn't want to come out of the game. What do you think?
I don't know, and appreciate the phone call. I don't know at what point, and we would have to find out from Tua. Now, if I'm Tua, I probably say, I didn't feel right in the second half. That way I can explain that, hey, I threw some bad passes because I wasn't me. So it doesn't look like you just had a lot of ineptitude. Like you were just not that good of a quarterback. I don't know. He would have to explain at what point he started feeling the symptoms. Apparently, he didn't really feel the same. He didn't say anything after the game. He didn't say anything at the podium. He didn't say, hey, I kind of got my bell rung. I had to shake the cobwebs off. He didn't say any of that. It wasn't until he came in the next day that he said, oh, by the way, I've got a headache. And they said, okay, let's take a look at you. And then they realized that, okay, you didn't pass the baseline test. To what level, we don't know. There wasn't a lineman that said, yeah, he was funny in the huddle. He just wasn't acting right. There's not a doctor that was on the sideline that said, boy, we were called over to, investigate whether or not he was concussed. The head coach never said, hey, I talked to him and he looked like he was, had the far off distant stare. I think it's, while I will never downgrade a concussion, I also find it interesting that everybody wants to use it as the reason the Packers won. Again, they didn't give up a point in the second half. They still, Miami still ran the ball. They weren't giving up big chunks of yardage to Mostert anymore. It's you just don't know to what extent you don't know, but it's easy to dismiss. That's my only issue. It's just easy to dismiss, to say, well, Tua gave the game away. Packers didn't win it. Tua gave the game away. Okay, well, now what? What, because the Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't everybody say, at least the majority of people that called this program, that said, boy, if they win in Miami, then I'll be a believer, right?
Yeah, and frankly, I'm in that boat as well. After the game on Sunday, I am somewhat of a playoff believer.
That now all of a sudden I can't find a person that said it. No, I never said that. I wasn't a believer. I never said, well, they didn't play good enough to win. I never said that. It's like, where the hell did all these people go? They changed their names, go into witness protection. Look, I'm not saying the Packers are a Super Bowl bound team. I'm just saying with the people that came out and said, hey, if they win this game, I'm going to become a believer. Is it because Tua's concussed now? You find out on a Tuesday that he's had a concussion, that he went into the protocol yesterday when he walked in? And all of a sudden, wow. Well, there you go. That's the reason they won. Packers suck. I look at it as they played terribly. Their defense gave you half a game. Their offense was just awful. Rodgers looked bad. But here's the thing. Rodgers looked bad and still had 4 or 5 passes in that game that only Aaron Rodgers makes. That flick down the sideline to Alan Lazard, that pass, that play action, that beautiful play action that he had. Now, granted, it was, Big Dog was wide open, but Rodgers has such an incredible way for play action, and they don't use it nearly enough to just get misdirection going to where you believe he's handing all of a sudden back and he's tossing it to a wide open tight end. It was a beautiful play design. And, I wish they'd do that more. I just do. I wish they would do that more. 877-867-1670. If you want to find us, do it. 877-867-1670. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear from you. Real quick, I got an email here. This one's from Casey. Casey says, this weekend's game is going to prove everything. If they can beat the Minnesota Vikings, then I'm going to become a believer. I thought they would beat Miami because Miami wasn't playing good football coming into this game. We know the Vikings have everything to play for. They're playing for seeding. They're playing for pride. They want to put the Green Bay Packers away and not allow them to get into the postseason and dash their hopes. If they win this weekend, that's when I'll become a believer. Okay, well, you're entitled to that, and you make a good argument. Let's go to Dwayne, listening to us in Oshkosh. Dwayne, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Hey, there was a film last night. They showed where he got hurt. It was in the second quarter.
Okay.
He came back on his head, bang. I mean, it was, yeah. But yeah, he didn't.
Here's my question: when they showed it, did he get up? Was he stumbling around? Was he out on his feet? Was there any noticeable issues?
Nothing. There was nothing obvious, and then, but it was weird because, like you said, in the second half, you looked at that guy, go, what happened to that pinpoint guy in the first half? And, concussions are a weird thing. My son, thankfully, only had 1 in 4 years of football, but yeah, they're not fun.
Right.
I think it's time we fire the offensive coordinator. If that's Matt LaFleur, he needs to give the job to somebody else because it is literally driving me crazy when we don't go play action pass, because the results on play action pass have got 75% positive at least.
Mm-hmm. I'm completely
doing the shotgun crap.
It is maddening as to the way he called that offense against Miami. Maddening because it was so non-creative.
And I will say this, Bill. Of all the stadiums out there, that weather can have a huge effect. Miami's one of them because their bench is, you're the visitor and that heat just blasts you. And that's what usually happens to Packers in Miami. They get that, we're tired. It's the fourth quarter. We ain't got nothing left in the tank. But when that forecast came up, I was like, yeah, that's another Christmas present to open.
Right.
But yeah, they play good football. They're not a Super Bowl team. They're a team that's scratching and clawing and fighting their brains out. And I feel bad for the Watson kid, but for everybody who wants to say, oh, he's this. Well, Jamar Chase has been out for a long time with the Bengals. A.J. Brown been out for a long time with the Eagles. Wide receivers get hurt, and it's just, but I don't know. The kid's a big, lean body type. I hope he can do something to affect that, but boy, we need him. We're going to really need that against the Vikings because I'm with you. I don't think there's any comparison to saying, was Miami the tougher game than Minnesota? No. The Vikings are licking their freaking chops for this one. They want to bury the legend of the Packers.
They want to give them the knockout blow. That's just everything I listened to yesterday and everything I've listened to this morning. They want to deliver the knockout blow. That's what they're coming here to do. That's kind of their battle cry, so to speak. So I really believe that Minnesota is looking at it going, okay, we have a shot. We're not going to make the mistake that the Bears did years ago when the Bears let them get the win, and then the Packers went on to roll. Not to think that the Packers are going to roll, but the Bears let them, open up, and so we'll now see if the Vikings can deliver the knockout blow. Appreciate the phone call, 877-867-1670. That's what the Vikings want to do. They want to end it. They want to not only beat them twice, but this would be the final punch to the grill, knockout blow, to where the Packers go reeling back and say, okay, better luck next year. That's what they're hoping to do. By the way, over on our Twitter poll question, Packers fans, where do you give credit for the Green Bay Packers win against the Dolphins? Packers played better, 32.9%. Tua gave away the game, 67.1%. Already going on 80 votes cast. Continue voting over there to let us know your thoughts on the contest. 877-867-1670. Our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. You still got some time, believe it or not. You got through the holidays for the most part. We still have New Year's to go, but you know what I'm talking about. You got through Christmas, and you're going to keep that jingle in your pocket. You know why? Because you're not going to have to pay anything until 2024. How about that? So Santa's elves, they can come in and install year-round from luxurious wood to fiberglass and vinyl. Do what I did, and that is pick up one of those big patio doors, windows, whatever it happens to be. Make your house more beautiful, more economical, more valuable, most preferred window by Milwaukee, Green Bay area homeowners out in Madison where the new showroom is. Everybody that's got them in, as far as I know, people that get a hold of me love them. Absolutely love them. If you got a little problem here or there, maybe installation took a little too long or whatever, people get a hold of me all the time, and I go, fine, I'll get it over to Gino. We'll get it taken care of. But once they're in and they're done and the windows are just you're looking out of them going, this is nice. The cold is outside, the warm is inside, whether it's a slider window with a roll screen, whether it's a crank window, a lockable window, the toe kicks that they have on the patio doors. Make sure you're safe and secure in the middle of the night. All that good stuff from our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Go to Pella, P-E-L-L-A, Pella, W-I.com. That is Pella, W-I.com, or call them right now for the free in-home consultation. Get it on the books right now. Free, 855 Pella, W-I. That's 855 Pella, W-I.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others. I'm in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or pirate ship or a sports-themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine. A place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Drives on offense, but we definitely left some points out there. Had some chances. Had Christian there on 4th down, just missed them. And, we had the first drive of the game, obviously down inside the 10. You need to get 7 there to kind of start off the game the right way. When we had to have drives in the second half, we made it happen. Big drive starting 3rd quarter. There was about 7 minutes and a touchdown to pull us back even. Then our defense just clamped down and played excellent football.
Welcome back to the program. Aaron Rodgers and company getting themselves a win over the weekend. I got a nice email from Keith and his wife Susie out in West Salem and out near La Crosse, and they said, took your advice, was downtown over the weekend and had a chance to stop in the Buzzard Billy's. What a great experience. We'd only been there one other time, and it was packed. This time we had a chance to sit down, enjoy our entire meal. We did take your advice and go upstairs and enjoyed the Starlight Lounge. It was the first time there for both of us. Thank you for the heads up. What a great place. We'll definitely be back. And the service was impeccable. That's from Keith and his wife Susie out in West Salem. I've always said great place, and there's no better commercial for some of our sponsors than people that actually take our advice and go there and enjoy things. So thanks for getting a hold of us, Keith and Susie, and I appreciate it. And I've always said, if you're out in La Crosse, man, make Buzzard Billy's and Starlight Lounge downtown La Crosse part of your visit, without a doubt. 877-867 1670. I was sitting here telling Ben the video of the guy, the rather large man. Now, I don't know all the intricacies of it. Apparently, he was mouthing off, and there was some Bear fan that pushed him down the stairs, and yada yada yada, whatever. But I reposted that video over the weekend, and the video has since it went worldwide viral. I mean, I've gotten videos and such that have had like 1 million views or something like that. This thing now has 33,433,516 views. It's been shared almost 7,000 times. And it's really weird because I saw this influx yesterday as you start to get people that follow you. I saw this influx yesterday of a lot of people that have pictures, but I can't read the writing. It's either Arabic or there was Chinese or Vietnamese or Taiwanese or Japanese. I have no idea. But there was a lot of different writing on a lot of different Facebook pages that now follow the Bill Michaels Show because our reach over the last week has gone up. Normally, we get a reach every week of about 300,000, 400,000 people, and which is really good. We do pretty well for the size we are. When you compare our page, which is followed by I think 25,000 people, our page compared to say like I go with like Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson has 4.1 million people. And we do pretty good. You take a big station like the Score sports station out of Chicago, they average about 100,000 something people a week. I mean, they have a huge following. But this week, it's all us. 25,026,027 on average right now. It's like, wow. And it's all because of just one post. But we did, it's really interesting that a lot of people that were off going into the holiday and coming out of the holiday must be at home because our engagements on social media have risen by more than double. So for those of you that are watching at home or over on the Bud Light live stream or what have you, it's amazing.
Or they're all stuck trying to fly southwest.
You're right. Or they're all stuck. Yeah. You could be right. Everybody's, kind of sitting in an airport somewhere going, what the hell? Yeah, there you go. 877-867-1670. Watcher 22 says, when I was younger, my friends and I tried to hit every bar in one. But lacrosse, correct me if I'm wrong, but lacrosse, it's either current or for a while, had the most bars per capita in the country. So if you try to hit every bar in lacrosse, you could walk in and walk out. But if you're drinking at every bar in lacrosse, you'd be a mess. I don't think your bladder would be that big. You just blow up. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. 877-867-1670. If you want to hit us, do it. Stock up and stock down coming up here in about 5 minutes. Stay tuned for that. We'll talk about the NFL and such. Let's get to it. Let's go to David listening to us here in Wisconsin. David, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
What's up, Bill?
How you doing? I'm doing good.
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. What you thinking?
I think that the Packers did pretty good on Sunday, but I don't think they have a true identity in this football, the whole thing.
I'd agree with that. They're still trying to search for what it is they do well and how to set it up and how to make it work. And Rodgers looks uneasy. That's a great point. I think at this point in the season, it's interesting when you say that, and appreciate the phone call. When you say that, that's something that nobody else has brought up, unless it was said, somewhere on, the NFL Network or something like that. We talk all the time about what's the identity, what's the playmaker, what's the identity, what's everything based off of. And it used to be, it was most of the offense ran through Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae had a special relationship. The offensive line was solid. And coming into the season, we said they're going to have to run the football. And how many times has Matt LaFleur gone to the podium going, the first half of that game, that's unacceptable. I got to go back and look at the tape. It's pretty much a broken record. Aaron Jones, only 3 carries in the first half of that game. That's unacceptable. I got to go back and look at the tape. Oh, running out of shotgun all the time, that's unacceptable. There's no creativity. I got to go back and look at the tape. Only, allowing our run game 6 touches at the football in the first half. I got to go back and look at the tape. Why? You're the one calling the plays. You can't be that stupid. That's on you. You don't have to look at the tape. All you got to do is look at your play chart and say, you know what? I screwed up. And if it's Rodgers changing the play at the line of scrimmage, then it's time to call him out. Because there was a couple of times you could have looked at Aaron Rodgers, ran down the field, grabbed him by his face mask, and said, throw the damn ball. And he didn't. He screwed up too. And when you talk about an identity, where is the identity? Is it a run game? No, because they don't use it. They use it every now and then. Is it Aaron Rodgers? No, because you don't know which Aaron Rodgers is going to show up, the good or the bad. Is it the passing game to Christian Watson downfield? No, because he's banged up again. Is it run behind a staunch offensive line? No, because you really don't give him an opportunity to become established. What is the identity of the offense? That's a great point. That's a great point. We're in the second last game of the season, and they don't have it. They don't have an identity. That's a really good point. 876. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ben.
I think the one thing I would fall back on, at least on their semi-winning streak / streak of playing better, their identity is getting the ball near midfield and just working the short fields every time because of Keyshawn Nixon, because of turnovers. Like, I don't think many of their scoring drives or productive drives have started deep in their own territory.
Or maybe
their identity is getting 1 first down.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a really good point. Or maybe get the ball and then stall. Uncomfortable, scramble, stall. Scramble, stall. Their identity is kicking field goals. And thank God Mason Crosby's on it, right? For everybody that wanted to run Mason Crosby out of town. Now the game this past weekend, Mason Crosby, he's 0 for 2 from 50 and beyond. Okay, so we all know that. There's nothing crazy here now. Okay, we all understand it. But when you look at Mason Crosby in the season that he's having, and when you talk about field goals and his percentage, field goal percentage, Mason Crosby, where's he at right now? Mason Crosby, I don't have it sitting here. I know he's in the 83, 84 percentile, something like that.
87. He
87?
is 20 of 23.
There he is. He's tied for 18th in the league, but he's 13th when you look at it because Taylor Bertollet and Vizcaino and those guys, they've only had 1 or 2 kicks and then they're done. For anybody that's got more than say 25 kicks, he would be like top 10, top 15, something like that. But where he's at right now, he's 87%. He's from 20 to 29 yards, he's 8 of 8. From 30 to 39 yards, he's 8 of 8. From 40 to 49 yards, 40 to 49, he's 4 of 5. And the only one that he did not make was blocked. That was on a bad snap. So he actually he's technically is 4 for 4. And then he's 0 for 2 beyond 50. That's a hell of a season. That's a great bounce back season for him. 87% field goal. That's a hell of a season right there. But that might be your identity. Scramble, stall, kick a field goal. Scramble, stall, kick a field goal. That's it. Good point. 877-867-1670. Gary says he's got the weakest leg in the league. He's got one of the most accurate. Does he put it in the end zone consistently? No. I'll give you that. But I'd rather have from 49 and in the most accurate kicker in the league. From 49 and in, he's missed 1 all season, and that was due to a bad snap. So, Gary, say what you want about the coverage hasn't been bad. It's not like he's been kicking the ball and they've been returning it to the 40 consistently either. Because he doesn't have the amount of touchbacks. And don't forget, you also kick in Green Bay. And if you remember, going back a few weeks ago, God, who was it? Was it no, it wasn't the Giants. Who was it a few weeks ago? I was watching both kickers and kicking in the cold at Lambeau Field. Neither kicker going into the south end zone from 50 or beyond was making field goals. And God, who was it? Just a couple of weeks ago. Ben, who'd they play a few weeks ago at Lambeau Field?
Tennessee?
Was it Tennessee? I think it probably was.
Or LA?
Oh, no, it was LA. It was LA. It was LA's kicker. It was LA. Thank you very much. It was LA's kicker. Both guys in warm-up. So I'm watching both kickers. I'm watching them both kick from 45, both kick from 50. Both kicking. Now, Mason Crosby, he was probably about 3 yards short. Their kicker was hitting the crossbar. So it's not like he's being outdone by 15, 20 yards. He's being outdone by about 5 yards. That's it. Matt Gay of the Rams. Thank you, Brett. Matt Gay of the Rams. You are 100% correct. Thank you very much. 877-867-1670. Stay tuned. We've got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up. Don't forget, tomorrow night, going to be a Club Paragon on Highway 100 in Greenfield. It's the Bill Michaels Huddle brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. Looking forward to it. 6 to 8 tomorrow night again. Club Paragon, Highway 100 in Greenfield. We'll see you there.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. Good to have you. This portion of the program brought to you by our friend Lyle and the gang at J&L Tire Service. They're right there off of 94 on the Johnson Creek exit. And you can go out there and see for yourself what it's all about. They've just got good people, really good people. And we've been talking about this for quite some time now. And they're very philanthropic. They do a lot of stuff within the community. So if you are looking at all at getting your car serviced or your truck serviced or whatever it happens to be, that's our friends at J&L Tire Service. J&L Tire Service right out there in Johnson Creek, just north of 94. Good stuff from our friends Lyle and the gang out there. Time now for a little bit of stock up and stock down. Let's bring it, Ben.
It's time for Stock Up, Stock Down.
The key feature here is speed, trying to follow what's going on in the market so that we can anticipate and catch trends as they occur.
From this week of football.
Let's start with stock up. Stock up, I will say for the Minnesota Vikings, their kicker, a big boot, 61-yarder. Joseph goes 61 yards just after Barkley ended up plunging it into the end zone to tie things up at 24 apiece. And the next thing you know, they go down in the end of the boots the 61-yard, split the uprights, and again, the cardiac kids that are in purple, they get themselves a win. I'm going to give it to a kicker, a 61-yarder to win the game. Granted, it was in a dome, but a 61-yarder to win the game for the Minnesota Vikings. It pains me to do so, but I'll give credit where credit is due.
Bill, it's ridiculous that they keep doing this. It's every single week. They just find a way to have a fluky win, and now they're 12-3. I think after this past weekend, I finally am accepting them as very good and just assuming they'll always find weird ways to win. After weeks of banging the drum of that they're not that good. I'll go stock down to start. And we talked about it at the top of the show. There's a crisis in our country right now, and it all has to do with Southwest Airlines. What they are doing to the consumer is an absolute joke. And there's this whole thing, this whole civil litigation lawsuit of they have to pay for all of the customers that they can't fly if they do it, not due to weather. And I think it's all just staffing issues. They just didn't organize for these weekends, and they have pretty much screwed half of America that tried to fly them. So I'm happy I flew American. It all went well. It's long overdue that we have a conversation about Southwest's ineptitude, but they are the biggest stock down. It's a joke.
There you go. I agree with that. Awful what they've done this past week during the holiday season. Also stock down, we got to talk about Nathaniel Hackett, don't we? Holy crap. The Broncos positively suck. Now, here's the question. Was Nathaniel Hackett way in over his head? Or was Russell Wilson not given a contract in Seattle because he's arrogant, because he stinks, he's begun the decline, and now he's taking Nathaniel Hackett down the tubes with him? They've got on the sidelines, backup quarterbacks going after the offensive line, the offensive line's going after the quarterbacks, the rest of the team's going after the coach. It was a dismal failure. And Nathaniel Hackett, how far in over his head was he, or was it all Russell Wilson and that now albatross of a contract as they got drilled by the Rams 51-14 at SoFi? But Nathaniel Hackett stock down, out of a job in Denver.
Oh, Bill, the game was on Nickelodeon, and I figure you did something more productive with your day than watch that game.
I did.
But Patrick Starr was that, like Patrick from SpongeBob, was flaming Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson. It was hilarious. They had to make it kid friendly, and then they bring on Patrick Starr, and he's joking about all his interceptions. It was great. Stock up. My Jacksonville Jaguars are now in first place after the implosion of the Titans continues. They lose to the Texans, and Tannehill's obviously done. But the Jags won that Thursday night game in New York, and they play Tennessee to end the season. But if it ended today, they'd be in the playoffs, which is ridiculous. Trevor Lawrence should win Comeback Player of the Year, Bill, not because he was hurt, but because he had Urban Meyer as his head coach.
Right.
It is ridiculous how more competent they are just as an organization with Doug Peterson compared to last season. And they're good. They're just a good team.
Yeah. It's no, I would agree with you. I mean, and Trevor Lawrence is playing like legitimately good football. He's making reads. He looks sharp. He looks like he's finally started to settle in. He looks like the guy we thought he would be coming into his first season, but he got saddled with Urban Meyer, who would rather put his hand between girls' legs up in bars in Columbus, Ohio, than actually be the head coach of an NFL football team. So that I'll agree with. My stock up. How about them Steelers? How about the Steelers? A Mike Tomlin-led team. Don't count them out. They look like they were done. I mean, just done, dead, buried. They have fought their way back. They're sitting at 7-8 right now. They beat the Raiders, and now there's talk about whether or not they should get rid of Derek. Can you imagine if the Raiders get rid of Derek Carr? If they just say, you know what, we're going to let you go. There's an ability there to kind of dump him. And if they would let him go, and then there's Devontae Adams sitting there with his hands out like, what the hell? But the Raiders right now sitting at 6-9, the Steelers at 7-8. And I give it to the Steelers. It was a night that they were supposed to celebrate the Immaculate Reception, and it was going to be all Franco Harris all the time. And then he passes away. They have the moment of silence. They have the emotional halftime and pregame ceremonies. And that's all they were talking about. And instead, they came out, they gutted it out, and get a 13-10 win over the Raiders. Give it up for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin's crew as they came out and they just kind of held steadfast. And now they've got like a legitimate path to get themselves possibly out of that AFC North and into the playoffs. It's astounding. They're doing it basically with not much up. They're third back or fourth back or something like that. They're right behind 10 because right now everybody with 7-8 records is New England, New York, the Jets, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh. They're all sitting there right now behind Miami, one loss away from being absolutely into the postseason. So they got a lot of tiebreakers to get through, but Pittsburgh's all of a sudden played their way into a spot possibly. So stock up is Pittsburgh Steelers.
Bill, speaking of the Raiders there, I think Bill Belichick is the only human out there with a worse coaching tree than Matt LaFleur.
Right? Bill
With
Belichick's
Hackett
coaching tree is
down.
awful. And
Yeah.
I guess now you just look at it as it's the competence of Bill Belichick that does everything. That's it.
And we could say the same about LaFleur, right?
Right? Yeah, right.
No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
exactly.
Stock down, my Eagles, Bill. Tough loss against the Cowboys. They had a backup quarterback. Like it was a great game and all that. But injuries, you mentioned how important it is to be healthy. Jalen Hurts is banged up. The best right tackle in football, Lane Johnson, goes down indefinitely. Their great slot corner goes down. So it's kind of adding injury to the insult of the loss. And now they look a lot more beatable up there as the 1 seed.
Yeah, no doubt. Then the stock upside of things, I'd go with the Green Bay Packers. They played poorly and still got a win. Although 60.5% of you say Tua gave the game away, the Packers got a win. So whether it was because of Tua or in spite of their own ineptitude, the Packers still walk away with a win. They still now have over a 25% chance of making it into the postseason. And if they get the win this weekend, they are then over 50. It's almost 52, 53% likelihood that they would find themselves into the postseason after 147 votes cast over on Twitter. 60.5% of you say Tua gave the game away, and only 39.5% of you say that the Packers actually played better. But stock up, I'd give to the Green Bay Packers.
Bill, can't both things be true there? Like, I want to give the Packers all the credit in the world for winning on the road against a possible playoff team and really just completely flipping the script in the second half. And it wasn't pretty defensively, offensively, everything. I do think Tua completely threw the game away, but I think both can be true there. Where I'm going to give credit, I'm going to say that I didn't love Matt LaFleur's day or a bunch of other things, but I think both things can be true where, I mean, was it just the Packers defenders playing better? Straight up, like the secondary hung with guys. Jaron Reed played his best game of the season. And then Tua also made some catastrophic mistakes.
Real quick, also stock up. If you're just tuning us in, the breaking news of the day, J.J. Watt has decided at the end of the season, this is going to be it. He's indicated he's going to retire. And kudos to him, not only for what he's done in his career, obviously not getting a championship, but playing extremely well for the most part. Obviously, injuries have taken their toll. But really just kind of representing some of the good things and representing Pewaukee and representing Wisconsin incredibly well. So kudos to J.J. Watt and in his career in the NFL. So good stuff. And now we'll see if he ends up, moving on somewhere into a broadcast booth or as an analyst somewhere before it's all said and done. But kudos to J.J. Watt. Let's do this. We're going to step out, take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we'll get back at it. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends over there at Potawatomi Hotel Casino at Potawatomi. They still have a New Year's Eve package going on. They've got good stay-and-play packages going on for the hotel. Bingo is now back. Everything you need, go to paysbig.com. That is paysbig.com. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Ho, 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 I need a window.
Baby, it's cold outside.
So where do I go? Ho, ho.
Come on, Santa. Go to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Now is the time to replace your leaky windows and doors. You and Mrs. Claus can get your new windows while putting no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. Unwrap this gift now, but pay for it 2 years later.
More jingle that stays in my pocket.
That's right, Santa. Plus, our elves install year-round and in as little as 1 day. Pella offers lines in luxurious wood to fiberglass and vinyl.
Why not make a New Year's resolution today?
That's the spirit, Santa.
Hella no, pay later.
Absolutely. Put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. But you have to hurry. Offer ends December 31st. Schedule your free consultation today at PellaWI.com.
License for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers getting ready to host the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. Kickoff at Lambeau Field is at 3:25. The Packers defense came up with 4 takeaways in their win over the Dolphins in Miami that began with Jerron Reed with a forced fumble and recovery just before the half. Nose tackle Kenny Clark.
That was huge. And, we started feeling that their offensive line started wearing down. And, JB did a great job. He got put in the position at the 5 tech. Dean went down, so we needed him to step up and play the 5. And, he did a great job getting off the block and getting the fumble and the recovery.
The Packers gave up several deep balls to the Dolphins, including an 84-yard touchdown pass to Jalen Waddle, their longest play of the season. At halftime, Packers secondary coach Jerry Gray chewed his players out. They responded with 3 interceptions in the second half. Jair Alexander.
With any good secondary, it's always good leadership, and that's from the coaching down to the players. It was just reiterated, and once it's reiterated, it's like, okay, we get it now. We get it. These guys are fast, but we're still good. We're still like the best secondary in the league. And that's something that we've been working on all year. So.
And the Broncos fired their head coach and former Packers offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. Denver now 4-11 after being blown out by the Rams. Matt LaFleur.
It's a ugly part of this business, part of that, you never like to see, especially when it's somebody you care about. And, I feel for him and his family.
That's Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
Check out some bowl games and such, and obviously Badgers. We're going to talk some Badgers coming up a little bit later on the program, about an hour and 10 minutes from now. Zach Heilprin from talking about the Badgers coming up this evening, and they're going to get into that. But we're going to head downtown, heading over to San Giorgio and Calderon Club tonight, doing a little boat, actually, taking 15 kids to the hockey game tonight, going down to see the Edmonds. We're going to head over to San Giorgio, Calderon. Adults, I think, are doing Calderon. Kids, I think, are doing San Giorgio. Going to both places. Little cider boys, good stuff. Mix it up. Get some of that spicy chicken marsala and salsina penne pasta, and then the kids are going to do pizzas over at San Giorgio. Can't wait. All of that ahead of the game tonight. I've always said, if you're going to go get some of the best Italian food you're ever going to put in the grill, that's the place to go. Both places, actually. Calderon Club, Old World 3rd Street, right across the street from the Hyatt Hotel, just a block and a half away from UW Panther Arena. Or San Giorgio, going to do both. So look for us down there tonight. Probably about 5 o'clock is when we get down and start grubbing and then head over to UW Panther Arena and check out the hockey game tonight. Can't wait. Really looking forward to it. Just added Gino and the gang when we get down there. But San Giorgio, Calderon Club, Point, all that good stuff. Make sure you stop in, and we'll see you down there. If you're going down to the game, we'll see you down there. Even the Marquette. By the way, Packers fans, where do you give credit for the Green Bay Packers win against the Miami Dolphins? That is the poll question over on Twitter today. And the Packers just simply played better, 39% of it. Tua gave the game away, 61%, with 160 votes cast in the last hour. So 160 votes cast already. And the majority of you believe that Tua gave the game. Still think you got to win, but and Brian says, I think both answers are correct. Packers played well enough to win, and Tua did give the game away down the stretch. So there you go.
Victor says, hey, guys, love the Packers talk today. What is the percentage you mentioned earlier? 25-something percent, 25.5 or something like that percent for the Packers getting in the postseason right now. If they win, if they beat the Minnesota Vikings coming up this weekend,
And if they beat the Vikings, then I think it goes to like 52% or something like that for them to get in the postseason. So that's where it's at, Victor. Appreciate the email. All right, 2 more hours. 2 hours down, 2 hours yet to go. Stay tuned. We still have a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Wisconsin is in Phoenix. It's where they're going to take on Oklahoma State tonight in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. New coach Luke Fickell going to be on the sideline serving as head coach. But he says tonight isn't about him or the future. It's about finding a good ending for this year's team.
Just win. Just win. I mean, it's ultimately when you come down to it, you play the game to win. And we can't lose sight of that. You know, it's not about me. It's not about, well, this is a new guy coming in. He's going to, he's going to do. No. But what gives us the best opportunity chance to win? Because that's what these guys deserve.
Wisconsin hasn't announced who its starting quarterback going to be, but it's either going to be senior Chase Wolf or Miles Burkett. The expectation, both will play at some point in the game. Kick is set for 9:15 Wisconsin time. Meanwhile, former Badger star J.J. Watt is calling it a career after 12 seasons in the NFL. Made that announcement this morning. Turning to the Packers, they're getting the day off from practice. They'll be back out on the field tomorrow, getting ready for Sunday's matchup with Minnesota. Green Bay's won 3 straight games, seen their odds make the playoffs climb to 38%, according to ESPN. The easiest path, winning their final 2 games and having Washington lose one of their final 2, are going to be Minnesota and Green Bay on Sunday at Lambeau Field.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Bucs are going to close out their road trip tomorrow when they take on the Bulls in Chicago. Milwaukee has lost a season-high 3 straight games, and Wisconsin moved up 2 spots to number 15 in the latest AP poll released yesterday. They're going to face Western Michigan on Friday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Watt, Pewockee's own J.J. Watt, has indicated in his Twitter account that he's calling it a career. The next couple of games, that's going to be it. And he has 111 and a half career sacks. He has played at an incredibly high rate, also has had a very injured career. 5-time All-Pro, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year in 12 years, led the NFL in sacks in 2012 and 2015. And his career is now coming to an end. However, as Ben Kenny shows, we also think that there's breaking news when it comes to Cheez-Its, right?
I want you to do the honors here.
It cracks me up. Is this like, are we serious here? That
yes,
Carter
100%.
Carls, who is the Florida State beat writer, and he says, really valuable information. A Cheez-It Bowl representative told me last night there is, quote, no such thing as Cheez-Its It's a Cheez-It. 2 or more of the Cheez-Its are called Cheez-It crackers, not Cheez-Its. It's Cheez-It. That's
Bill?
it. There you go.
This is crushing news.
That's it. You only get this type of massive breaking news and interaction on this particular program. It's the only place it happens. There you go. I feel better.
There are a lot of ways I could go with this, but I'm opting not to.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's where we've gone. We're talking about Cheez-It, not Cheez-Its. Cheez-It crackers, not a Cheez-It. How about that? What else do we got? Anything else today before we get into this hour? Anything, Ben? Don't think so.
I'm just trying to.
Go ahead. Are you absorbing the whole Cheez-It scandal?
I'm blown back by it. I'm trying to formulate sentences that involve me saying I'm having a bag of Cheez-Its, but
you can now say I'm having a bag of Cheez-It crackers rather than a Cheez-It.
I can't understand, but if you have 3 Cheez-Its or 3 Cheez-It crackers, it sounds terrible.
It sounds awful. Yeah, but that's the way it's supposed to be. It's Cheez-It, not Cheez-Its. Cheez-It. They have to make that distinguishing notation so it respects the brand, I guess.
I feel betrayed.
It's just, but these are the big things, the breaking issues that we have to deal with. By the way, speaking of breaking issues, Mark Schlereth, I don't know if you heard the broadcast yesterday or Sunday, but Mark Schlereth has said he thinks this is it. He had talked a little bit about Rodgers' play in their broadcast, and he went on Colin Cowherd's show and said he thinks this is it for Aaron Rodgers. Take a listen.
This is it for Rodgers. I think they've already made the decision that Jordan Love can play, and he's going to get an opportunity next year. My gut just tells me, and I don't know. Like, I have met with him. I did a Packers Chicago game, and I just felt like they feel really good about where Jordan Love is, that he has made a huge leap as far as the way he practices, the way he operates, his knowledge of the game. And I just feel like they've already made that decision that they're gonna find a way out of that contract. I think they've already got some clauses in that thing, and that Aaron Rodgers will be playing somewhere else next year.
So now let me say this, and I like Mark. Mark and I have had great conversations. We see him every year at Super Bowl. He's fun to talk to. He's knowledgeable about the game. And this is, you got to address this. You have to bring this up because he said it, and anything in regards to the Green Bay Packers is news. Anything regarding Aaron Rodgers is news. Okay, so you can't ignore it. I don't think that's it. I'm just going to throw it out there. Now, he may end up being right, but he was also the guy that broke the news that Aaron Rodgers was definitely going to Denver. And that never happened. And it really never was going to happen. So I know that here's a funny thing. So and this is, I'm going to break a little news, behind the scenes news here. So you get these number one teams that fly in, these broadcast teams that fly in, and they sit down with the team, and they sit down with the coach last night. Did you know a lot of these guys now do it via Zoom? It used to be you'd actually sit in a room. They'd bring you into the conference room, or you guys would go get dinner or something. You know, there'd be some PR director bring you down, and you guys got so much time, and you had your notes and all that stuff. And now it's Zoom. So a lot of it's Zoom. So you don't get a feel for the guy that's sitting there. He's looking around. He's on his phone. You know, you're watching his face on the Zoom call, but he's not looking into the camera and looking at you as he talks. You know, it's just, we've all been on Zoom calls now. They're different. They're not in person. Guys talking over one another, and you're like, oh, no, go ahead. No, you go ahead. No, you go ahead. Okay, go ahead. And then they start talking. It's an awkward conversation on Zoom. It's not the same. So I'm just here to tell you, the whole thing about Jordan Love, he's one of the only people that I've heard say that they feel unless Jordan Love behind closed doors is lighting it up, which nobody has stated. I am not ready to just say 2 series makes Jordan Love. I think that comes off of what he saw against Philadelphia and maybe what he's trying to read into a conversation, but that's it. Just not, I don't believe that. Now, I will say that behind closed doors, there are some guys that, have Jordan Love's back. I've not breaking news here. I've already said it on this program. There are some guys that behind closed doors, they know what Rodgers brings to the table. They know he's a Hall of Famer. They respect his ability, respect his mind, respect what he means to the organization. They respect him. But what they didn't respect was, you guys go do it and I'll see you when I get there. They know that he's a veteran and they know he's earned that right, but you're the one being paid $50 million. We're trying out here to hump our first contract, and you're going to take time off and then tell us what we need to do. You're supposed to be the guy getting paid and setting the example. And then to come in and complain about it and point the finger at everybody else at first didn't sit well with some people. That's probably more true than the organization ready to move on from Aaron Rodgers, other than the money. So I'm not going to buy into that. Just not. I know. And look, we've heard any news that in any way, shape, or form has the Green Bay Packers moving on from Aaron Rodgers, or Aaron Rodgers pissed off, or harping on Aaron Rodgers. We know that, Colin Cowherd's going to jump on, because he's been preaching that for a long time. But what has happened here in Wisconsin? No. Nope. And you even heard Goody talk about it in that presser that he had during the bye week, when he talked about Aaron's play. He talked about next year. Even the question came up about David Bakhtiari. And he kind of cautioned and said, hey, wait a minute, realistically, financially, there's some things we would have to do. But he also said, you have to remember, he's been taught, if you've got a really good left tackle who you believe can help your team, you don't just cast them by the wayside. You may have to because of money, but there's no reason you can't restructure. 877-867-1670. Let's get back to the phone calls. Let's go to Chris, listening to us in Brookfield. Chris, how you doing?
Tell you, Bill, it took me about a minute and a half yesterday to realize that you were having the post game. I was like, oh yeah, I want to comment, but couldn't get through. But yesterday, Sunday, you had a comment on the defensive coordinator and your philosophy, or what you thought about him. I still think he's got to go. They've given up a few points, but they haven't really played anybody. And if you go back and you listen to what the defensive back said, it was Gray who took them in and screamed at all of them to get their act together for the second half of that game yesterday. Mm-hmm. And then I also think that the Packers, you have to give credit to Gray for screaming at them. But I think I can never pronounce his name right. The Dolphins quarterback, I think he gave us that game yesterday. I mean, when you throw that many interceptions, you better win. But I was still in the same boat of, and I'm not going to ever change my tune. I don't care if Rodgers is a first-time Hall of Famer. He's done. I mean, if this year doesn't tell you with his poor decision-making, is always going for the bombs, not taking what the defense gives them, his missed throws over the head. I mean, you're talking about Watson getting hurt. How many times has that kid had to turn around and kick behind him just to get walloped on a play because Rodgers can't lead him, can't get the ball where he needs to be? Mm-hmm. Just like in the end zone where Watson fell down. It's like, well, if the Rodgers puts the ball where he can high point it and he can go up for it instead of throwing it behind him, it was ridiculous. And when Rodgers takes the sack, when he has Cobb wide open, that's ridiculous. They all say as you get older, you start to lose stuff. Now, Rodgers did make some perfectly sweet-looking passes. He has all season, but they've been far and few between. I mean, to pick the toss to Lazard, like you said, that was sweetness. That was just perfect. But they're too far, few and in between. To me, he's lost his accuracy. He wasn't. To to me, Devontae Adams is what made him get the MVP last year, because last year, in my opinion, that should have went to Stafford. First year with a team, takes them and wins their division. I mean, I know the awards are before the playoffs, but there was no way Rodgers deserved it last year. I mean, I just wish they would move on, and you were absolutely correct on the play calling. I don't know what's going on with Flores. I wish Clements would just say, okay, coach, how come you don't go into play action and keep Rodgers under center more when you've got two of the best running backs? Here's your statistics on, like you've said many times, it's proven when you're under center and you're in play action, your offense is 75% more efficient than when Rodgers keeps going in the shotgun, especially inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Last year there was more play action, there was more movement, but also we remember, and I appreciate the phone call. Everything they did was based upon what the coverage was going to be and where Devontae Adams was going to be. They don't have that same level this year. But this year we thought it would be more creative. It would be more focused on the run. It would be more, going outside with Aaron Jones and up the gut with A.J. Dillon, and it would be more, hey, we're going to ride the offensive line to a championship, and it never really seemed to come out that way. It just didn't. It was, for lack of a better term, it just wasn't good. And by the way, so going back to last year, when you talk about, Rodgers didn't deserve the MVP, last year's quarterback rating was a 111.9. 111.9. He had 55 passes or 20 or more yards, sacked 30 times. He had, 37 touchdowns to 4 picks. His pick ratio was fantastic. The year before, he had 48 touchdowns to 5 picks, which was fantastic. His interception percentage was 0.8, another number that was really solid. 4,115 yards, 7.7 yards per average. Which you go back to, say, 2014, 2013. Those are the kind of numbers he was putting up in those years, the same amount of per play yardage. I mean, he had a hell of a year last year in back-to-back seasons, and he didn't play well early on, but he came on in the very end in the second half of the season and played extremely well and put that team in position. They were the best record in football, don't forget. And they didn't have an unbelievably dominating defense. I mean, it was basically because the offense really started to crank it up. So, this is from Art, who says, yeah, just wait for it because Aaron Rodgers is going to go down. He's injury prone. Art, that is such a lame take. Rodgers missed games in only 2013 and 2017. That's it. That's it. Unless, of course, they sat him because they had already won and you're going into the end of the season. He's only missed those games. That's it. The injury prone thing, that's garbage. Every quarterback gets banged up. Everyone does, but he's not missing games. Lamar Jackson's missing games. Justin Fields is missing games. Tua is missing games. Go through the list of quarterbacks that are missing games. He's not. The pocket passers, you may not like them. You may not like the fact that they don't run all over the place. Jalen Hurts missing games. Rodgers hasn't missed a game since 2017. Since 2017. So this whole injury-prone thing, unbelievably ignorant comment. Just wanted to throw it out there. 877-867-1670. Find us. Give us your thoughts. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Uh-oh, that one's picked! Dueling interceptions! Jair Alexander! Punch, counterpunch! Packer football!
Walk us through that play. What happened and how'd you grab it?
Oh, man, that's easy. So I'm just lining up. I seen number 10 motion over. A. Jones. I seen number 10 coming across the field. I said, oh, snap, he fast. So I bagged off. When I bagged off, I seen him coming. He ran right in front of me. I was like, wow, is he really overthrowing it? Took it down the sideline, turned over with my guys, gave the football to a little kid wearing 23.
I love it. Merry Christmas to you. I don't even have more to say. That was
Merry
fantastic.
Christmas. If you celebrate it, Merry Christmas. Go enjoy time with your family. We got the dub, baby. Pack is back.
Got the dub. I love it. Jair Alexander explaining the pick. That's awesome stuff. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. Talking to Pam Oliver after the game. That's fantastic. Oh, my God. Good stuff. We got the power rankings coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Zach Heilprin coming up at the top of the next hour as the Badgers get ready for the bowl game, and they're trying to get one more win as the seniors then go out maybe on a positive and trying to set the stage for what will become Luke Fickell's era in Wisconsin after the fact. So we'll be talking about that coming up here.
Live from Arizona, Bill.
Live from Arizona.
Yeah, he's out tanning, reportedly.
I heard that. He's out there doing the pasty white thing poolside. I like that. Zach will come back all bronzed up. Look like a Mayan god when he comes.
He's big on the no socks. So I think Arizona plays in well for that. He could just go sandals. Here in Wisconsin, you kind of need socks at a certain point.
Yeah.
Or else it will be cold. So that he's very happy that they made it to a low tier bowl in Arizona.
Not a big sandals guy. It's always the gym shoes, or every now and then you can do maybe a slide poolside or something like that, but that's about it. Just throwing it out there. Hope to God he's not a sandals with white socks. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, people can rock that.
No, people can't.
Not myself.
No, people can't.
I think they can.
If you wear, I don't care if you wear even the half sock. It looks bad. It's gross. You should never be allowed to do it. And if you do it, you should have your feet cut off. It's an ugly look. It's terrible.
I'm pretty into the socks and Crocs.
That's a worse look. And anybody who wears Crocs is, off of my Christmas list. Crocs are, no, there's nothing good.
It's the most comfortable shoe ever created.
No, there's nothing good about Crocs. Nothing good about them. It's a bad idea. It's something that's so ugly it caught on, and there's nothing good about Crocs. Just saying.
Are Crocs a good shoe? Your call's next.
No,
877
you can call up and you can say what you want. And it's like somebody's already hit me up today with JJ Watt's retiring. That's the Mount Rushmore of Wisconsin sports. Stop. I'll never do it. Never talk about it. Never going to happen. Nope. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not on this program. Not going to happen.
So what? JJ Watt, Rodgers,
Nope.
or just Badger sports?
Nope.
Russell Wilson.
No. Russell Wilson played a year. How in the world can he be up there on that anyway?
So who would it be?
Not going to do it. Nope. Not going to do it. We've had a lot of great players in the state of Wisconsin. Everybody from Giannis and Rodgers to Favre, Bart Starr,
Tyler Hero.
Ray Nitschke. We've had Robin Yount. We've had Paul Molitor. Had a lot of great players. You go back and look at the great Oscar Robertson. You look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You look at Giannis. There's so many great players in the state of Wisconsin. Coaches have been here. No, you're not going to do it. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. It's just one of those endless arguments of just to argue. Never going to happen. There we go. I feel better. I know I left you smiling.
Oh, you got to put Leroy Butler on there.
Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Nope. 877-867-1670. Let's get to Daniel listening to us in Toma. Daniel, how you doing today, man? Thanks for hanging on. What's going on?
How you doing?
Good.
Long time no talk. One, everybody keeps on saying that Love should go in there. They're nuts. Okay, I'm not saying that he might be a great player later, but it ain't happening. Number two, I'm not saying Miami gave him the game, but also I told you beginning of the season our defense is going to make us or break us or put us over the edge. 2009, we were not even supposed to make the playoffs. We were the last team to make the playoffs, and we made the Super Bowl. And don't forget about Atlanta Falcons when they went into Minnesota and beat them when they were 15-1. I believe it was 15 or 17-1. They only lost one game. Atlanta just knocked them all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So don't give up hope. I'm not saying we're going to make the playoffs, but Minnesota, you know what a junk car and Minnesota Vikings have in common, don't you?
What's that?
They both have no title.
Yes,
If there's a tornado in Minneapolis, you know the safest place to be? Is their trophy room. There's nothing in there.
There's nothing there.
Because
they need to have.
You know why they have purple outfits, don't you? You'd be purple too if you were a Minnesota Viking fan.
There you go.
Choking Vikings.
There's choking blue. There you go.
Hey, if they want to talk trash and I listen to the Viking fans radio station, I'm talking trash back. They had that one place where they said, I made every ring in the world. I've been in the business for 80 years. I called him up and said, I told him straight out, so there's one ring you never made. He says, what's that? Super Bowl ring.
Nope.
For the Minnesota Vikings.
Not going to happen.
Thank you very much.
There you go. Daniel, thank you, pal. Appreciate it. 877-867-1670.
He had those ready.
He's going to be here all week, folks. All week. Oh, my goodness. Let's go to Todd listening to us in Mount Horeb. Todd, please raise the level of the program.
Hey, I don't know if I can do that. That was hilarious. The other thing I'd like to say, I got friends that are Viking fans, but I've never seen a more arrogant fan base for not having won a thing. It's just crazy. The other thing is kind of crazy. Listen, I mean, I know people don't like Rodgers on a personal basis. They get a little put off about what he says. I'm fine with everything. I like the guy. I like his attitude, everything. But you can tell people call in and they're more hating him about his personal side. You had to defend him there. Like this guy that called in and said he shouldn't have had the MVP last year. Does he realize that Stafford threw 17 interceptions last year and was the leader in the league? Now, he won the Super Bowl. I'm not taking that away from him. But Stafford this year has 10 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Rodgers has completed 65% of his passes this year. Now, some of that he's missed. Not as much as what people want to say, but there's also a lot of drop passes in there. This is kind of a year that it's really hard to really know. Should Rodgers have been there for the early, training, 10 days? Yeah, would have made that much difference, maybe a little. But this year is kind of a wash for me. There's rookie receivers running wrong routes. the offensive line at time, like the other day. I mean, he did a great job eluding the rush the other day and making some great plays. He missed Watson on that one, which was kind of weird, but all in all, I just don't get this hatred towards Rodgers and wanting Love in there when he hasn't proven a thing. I just don't understand it.
Because people saw that, appreciate the phone call, because people saw that Jordan Love had 2 good series against Philadelphia, and now he's completely flipped over as a quarterback. He's a Hall of Famer and waiting, and everybody wants to see him. That's the reason why. That's it. Everybody believes that Jordan Love is the next coming because he had 2 good series in Philadelphia. For the people that have been wanting to see Jordan Love, those are the ones that are going, aha, I told you so. And it's the same thing. They were all waiting for him to get his chance against Kansas City, and he did. Looked bad. And granted, you had the play calling apparently was the problem, according to Matt LaFleur. And so they said, okay, we'll change it up. He's going to play the entire second half against Detroit last year in kind of a meaningless game after the Packers had locked everything up. Aaron Rodgers played the first half. They didn't look good. Second half, Jordan Love looked worse. Didn't look good at all. Everybody said, well, it wasn't starters reps, forgetting that he had starters reps the entire season for the most part after week 7 because Rodgers ended up with a COVID toe. And he was taking the starters reps the entire remainder of the season. This year, well, he's not taking starters reps. Well, yes, he has been because Rodgers' thumb has been banged up. So he's been taking the starters reps. Well, now suddenly he gets it. You get 2 series against Philadelphia, and he looked pretty sharp. And he did. He did. Looked really good. But 2 series does not a career make. You don't just throw out, it was like last year. Everybody's ready to throw out Mason Crosby. Mason Crosby bounces back with an 86% field goal percentage. Is he going to kick you a 60-yarder to win the game? No. But he'll kick you a 48, 49-yarder to win you the game. He's only missed 1 inside of 50 yards. A 45-yarder to win you the game. He's only missed 1, and that was on a bad snap and exchange. That got blocked. That's it. I just don't throw out guys that have had great careers just because you don't do it. 877-867-1670. When we come back, time for some power rankings. We've had a little bit of jockeying going on in the power ranking category, so we're going to get into that when we come back. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others. I'm in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or pirate ship or a sports-themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine, a place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Medical Center reminding you that, hey, this time of year, man, cookies, cakes, pies, all that kind of stuff, all the hustle and bustle running around, all the different parties and stuff.
If you are feeling it, you're dragging, putting on the weight, and maybe you want to jumpstart a brand new you in a week from now, get a hold of our friends at New Mel Medical, 414-455-4451. That's 414-455-4451. That's the New Mel Medical Center. Just give them a buzz and tell them you heard it here, and you'd like to look into maybe, kind of starting a new you, maybe losing some weight, getting into shape. How about maybe just picking up the energy, the stamina, the the will, so to speak, controlling the moods. If you're over the age of 30, stop in and get checked. Could be low T. Or maybe you just are suffering from the ED and you want to give your partner a brand new you in 2023. Again, it's 414-455-4451. Yes, it works. 414-455-4451. That's the New Mill Medical Center, 414-455-4451. All right, time now for our power rankings for the week. Ben, do we have music for this? There we go. They suck. They're awful. They're fighting themselves. They fired their head coach. The new bottom feeder in the entire NFL. Just because they just are so bad. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. Houston got a win this weekend. So I'm going to go with Denver, taking over the new bottom spot, falling 2 spaces. Denver now sucks the worst. Houston coming in at number 31. Moving up 1 spot. Hanging in there. Hanging in there now. Chicago and an Indy. You got the Rams dropping 4 spaces. It's still a bad football team. That's just ugly. Arizona, Cleveland, Atlanta, New Orleans. You got the Raiders falling from 20th down to number 23, fall 3 spaces. They stink. New England falls 1 space. Carolina's right there. That's 21. Then your top 20. Pittsburgh comes up a notch. They come up a notch. They get a nice win, an emotional win. And they're just starting to make believers out of people. They're within striking distance. Green Bay, the Packers, pop up a spot. They're climbing steadily at number 19. Detroit, they fall 4 spots. Detroit was on the rise, and they were right there, and then they ended up getting beat, and I dropped them down to number 18. You got the Jets sitting at 17. Tampa Bay stays steady at 16. Top 15. Seattle, I am losing a lot of faith in Seattle. They fall yet again another spot, down to number 15. Tennessee falls 2 more spots, down to number 14. They get beat yet again. Washington, which showed so much promise, they get knocked off. Everything that had to happen for the Green Bay Packers has now happened. The only thing the Packers have left is to win out. If the Packers win out and the Washington Commanders lose one of the next 2, because Seattle has now lost their 2. Washington's lost 2 out of their last 4 already. They need to lose 1 more. And if the Giants, so it is. The team, we talked about them earlier. How about Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville? Jacksonville, number 12, the biggest jump this week, jumping 4 spaces to number 12. The Giants taking another notch down the poll, sitting at number 11. Then your top 10 and falling steadily is the Miami Dolphins. Now they're probably going to fall even more. Tua looks to be out. At least he's in the concussion protocol as of right now, as we all know. We'll see what happens this coming weekend. They got to go up to New England and take on the Patriots. Then you've got the Chargers. Got a boat race last night on the I tell you what, Indianapolis stinks. That first emotional win they got for Jeff Saturday. After that, Indianapolis has packed it in. They get boat raced by the Chargers. That ugly loss they took after losing the 33-point comeback from the Minnesota Vikings. It's awful. You got then, speaking of the Minnesota Vikings, the Vikings sitting at number 8. The top 8 stay the same, by the way. Nothing has changed. Baltimore sitting at number 7, albeit Baltimore without Lamar Jackson. Dallas sitting at number 6. Even with the win, everything remains the same. Nothing's changing. San Francisco at number 5. The Cincinnati Bengals did exactly what they were supposed to do this weekend. That was get a win. They did it. Sitting at number 4. Kansas City sitting at number 3. The Buffalo Bills at number 2 and keeping them right there, even though they did take a loss. They did it without Jalen Hurts. Philadelphia still the top spot. So Philly, Buffalo, Kansas City, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Cincinnati, San Francisco, Dallas. 7, 8, 9 is Baltimore, Minnesota, the Chargers, and then Miami coming in at number 10. And that is your top 10 of the power rankings right here on the program. By the way, the NFL put out some of the playoff scenarios for the NFC so far that have clinched. The Minnesota Vikings are in with the NFC North Division title. San Francisco with the NFC West. The Dallas Cowboys do have a playoff berth. So do the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants, they get in 8-6-1 if they week 7 against Indianapolis. If they get a win, and if they get a win at Philadelphia, the New York Giants can clinch a berth with a Giants win, or they tie, plus a Seattle loss, plus a Washington loss. Or a Detroit loss, or Washington and Detroit both lose, a Green Bay loss, what have you. Philadelphia, they can go ahead and kind of clinch home field advantage in the AFC's lone first-round bye with a win this weekend, or a Minnesota loss this weekend, or a Dallas loss and a Minnesota loss and a San Francisco loss or tie this weekend. So plenty of ways for them to do it. Tampa Bay, Washington. They do not, however, address the Green Bay Packers. They don't address the Green Bay Packers in this whole playoff scenario for the NFL. So,
because they can only be eliminated, right? Not clinch.
They cannot clinch. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So there you go. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Here's something from Thomas who says Vikings are not so hot. Bill, the Vikings are number 5 in scoring this year, scored 378 points. They have allowed 373. I doubt anybody in Green Bay's locker room is shaking in their boots looking at the Minnesota Vikings. I agree with you. Here's the one thing about it, though, Thomas, is the Viking, I mean, which is unbelievably undeniable. The one thing you cannot get past, and that is the fact that the Minnesota Vikings have won 12 games. They have won the most one-score games this season. I think it's like 7 or 8. Might be more than that. I could, correct me if I'm wrong. But I know the statistic during the game the other day was that the Minnesota Vikings have won the most one-score games and the most come-from-behind wins this season as well. So Minnesota, as much as you want to talk about they're beatable and their defense, and I 100% agree, also you can't count them out. Good teams figure out ways to win. We've always said that, right? You can't discount it now because it's the Vikings. They figured out ways to win. And there's something to be said for that. The fact that they have figured out ways to win and they have stacked 12 wins on the season. They're the second winningest team in the NFC. And they're tied with Buffalo and Kansas City for the second best record in the entire NFL. Philadelphia is the only team that's better than them with 13 wins. You got Buffalo, Kansas City, and the Vikings all with 12. You got to give them credit for that. But I agree with you. When you look at their points allowed versus their and what they've done so far this year, with their points allowed versus the points scored and their point, I mean, they're only, when you look at Philadelphia, Philly is plus 137. Okay? Plus 137. Dallas is 11-4 in the season. They're plus 131. Okay? San Francisco, who's 11-4, is plus 145. Buffalo is plus 157. Cincinnati is plus 85. Kansas City is plus 106. You get where I'm going with this. Minnesota, plus 5. They've got 9 wins. They're 9 games over 500. 12-3. 12 wins, but they're only plus 5 on the season. Think of that. They're only plus 5 when everybody else is 80 or more. So I agree with you. They look to be somewhat of a paper champion the way they are, but they've won some dramatic games. You got to give them credit, and they've been able to come back and find ways to win. So that means they're pesky, and you can't take your foot off the throttle or they'll catch you. The teams that have not taken their foot off the throttle all season long with the Minnesota Vikings are the teams that have beat them and beat them pretty soundly once you get up on them. 877-867-1670. But that's a great point. But I don't look at them as some kind of a bad football team. I look at them as maybe a mediocre team that figures out ways to win, and they've been able to do that, and that's really good. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. When we come back, Russell Wilson talk some smack on a Nickelodeon broadcast of all places. How about that? Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's all coming up. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Quick Trip. Download the Quick Trip app. Download the app, and you can follow along. Once you get your quick rewards in there, follow along as to what you have. And I've been telling you about this for a while. Today again, stopped there. Kristen and the kids are all here this morning, so I thought, well, I'll go get some donuts this morning for them. I had some running around to do, had some meetings. I went out, had to get some gas for tonight, heading downtown. So I stopped and got some gas, and when I did, right there, asked me right at the pump, would you like the 20 cents off? Because I keep getting the Red Bull and the breakfast sandwich. And for 20 cents off per gallon of gas? Are you kidding me? Heck yeah, took it. So there you go. Then you get inside, and the breakfast sandwich was free. It was just a banner day. Stop into Quick Trip and keep using those quick rewards. And if you haven't gotten them, download the app and open up an account. It's just use your phone number. And my God, you just keep getting savings. It's great stuff from our friends at Quick Trip. And they had the 25 days of Quickmas going on. And now they've got new and bigger and better deals coming up into the 2023 era. So, man, oh, man, oh, man. Stop into Quick Trip. Use it. And we all know we love Quick Trip, whether it's milk, eggs, bread, butter, bananas, whatever it happens to be, or just the staples like the breakfast sandwiches and the donuts and some of the other things that they put on sale. Such good stuff. Such good stuff from our friends at Quick Trip.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
If you're in or near Humbert, Wisconsin, check out a family success story with a good old-fashioned farm store. Go to ScholzeFamilyBeef.com. That's ScholzeFamilyBeef.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers reviewed the tape of their win over the Dolphins. Green Bay added some players to their injury list. Right tackle Josh Schneiman, a shoulder injury. Return man Keyshawn Nixon, a groin. And Matt LaFleur asked about if Christian Watson will be able to practice tomorrow with a hip injury.
No, yeah, he will be day to day, and we'll see how he progresses throughout the week. And certainly he is a difference maker out there.
What about Keyshawn and Josh?
I put all those guys in the same boat.
In Miami, Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa is in the concussion protocol again after having symptoms the day after the game. He's now under observation. Up next, the Packers host the Vikings, who beat the Giants on a last-second field goal from 61 yards out. Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell.
There's a lot of things that we can do better. A lot of things coaches can do better, but no better feeling than doing it after you're winning your 12th game of the season still with 2 to go.
And Packers left guard Elton Jenkins talked with reporters about signing his new contract extension with the team worth an estimated $68 million.
You know, the team always told me, the coaches and the people upstairs always told me how much they like me, how much they wanted me to be here. So I wanted to be here as well. So I feel like, you know, something's going to get done. You know, the time just had to be right. You know, we just had to get everything right and agree to terms.
What's the first thing you did after?
I called my mom.
That's Packers left guard Elton Jenkins. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on The Bill Michaels Show.
And those are the big horsey players. They have the ball, and they're going to see if they can find a way to move it.
Oh, nice.
And so what's that? Oh, there's Russ Wilson. Oh, that's called an interception. That's not what he wanted to cook.
That's a broadcast off of Nickelodeon. Welcome back to the program. The Bill Michaels Show continues on. Good to have you. Oh, my God. There you go. Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon's doing. And probably, I'd probably want to watch the Manning cast. If you put the Manning cast and Nickelodeon together, that'd probably be I'd watch day of the week. Just
Nickelodeon broadcast is like we're watching the Mannings and then you took acid. They have Yetis climbing on the goalposts. The goalposts are SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Every kids in the stands are getting slimed. Oh, it's incredible.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. By the way, go ahead.
I figure you were doing something more productive with your Christmas afternoon, but for all those out there that watched it, it was great.
I was watching football. I just kind of took it easy. You know, I mean, obviously my Christmas day was consumed with Packers football, but beyond that, it was, you know, watching a little bit of football and sitting in front of the fire and not doing much of anything. It was just enjoyable. By the way, I talked about the one win or the one score victories. The Vikings have 11 one-score victories this season. However, the come from behind victories when trailing going into the fourth quarter, they are 6-3 on the season. 6-3. They were 1-7 last year. They are 6-3 this year, which is the reason the 6 comeback wins when behind on the scoreboard to start the fourth quarter are now tied for the most in NFL history with still 2 games remaining on the schedule. So there you go. One more come from behind victory when trailing in the fourth. That's why, look, even if the Packers go into the fourth quarter and they're leading by 10, that lead is not safe. That's why this game is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. Just my opinion. This is going to be a tough one. Coming up after the top of the hour, Zach Heilprin's going to be joining us. We're going to talk with him out in Arizona. And we're going to talk with him regarding the Badgers and the bowl game coming up tonight. By the way, Southwest is now telling people they can't find their bags for another 4 days. Southwest Airlines, you can't be this bad. You really can't. Southwest Airlines can't suck anymore if they had to right now. Awful. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Zach Heilprin going to talk some Badgers with us. Coming up next on the Bill Michaels Show. Going on out in Denver and Russell Wilson and company, and the fact that Nathaniel Hackett has now been fired, and we've talked a little bit about Nickelodeon and such. J.J. Watt has announced his retirement on Twitter and said after this season that he's going to hang him up. And now you got Oklahoma State and Wisconsin going at it tonight, and Luke Fickell getting his first live look at the guys that he's going to be coaching moving forward, and hopefully the seniors go out on a positive note. At Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona, not Glendale. At Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona is where this one's going to take place tonight. The home of the Arizona Diamondbacks, which is a little weird because that's like putting a football field inside American Family Field here in our own backyard. But joining us now, Zach Heilprin, WOZN Madison, and the sports director out there covering the Badgers. Zach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Have you seen this setup? How they're doing this?
I have
saw
not.
A time lapse of it. I saw a time lapse of it online. It looks really good, and I was kind of thinking like of tagging American Family Field when I retweeted it because it kind of looks cool. I wouldn't mind that. I just don't know how the value of it doing in a stadium that small, but
right.
I wouldn't hate it.
Well,
they were Wisconsin was supposed to play at Wrigley in 2020. They were supposed to play Northwestern at Wrigley, and that game obviously got canceled because of COVID. But I kind of like the idea of it. I wouldn't mind it at American Family Field.
Well, if they can put one in Fenway, they can put one at American Family Field.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure.
You
I
know?
mean, they did it. I mean, the Pinstripe Bowl is at Yankee Stadium. So,
yeah,
they can do it.
Well, let's talk about this Badger team. Obviously, the senior. This one you want to win because you want the seniors to go out on a high. Let's start with that.
Yeah, you definitely do. There's a lot of guys. I mean, there are a lot of seniors that are playing their final game, and then there's some guys that are kind of undecided whether they're playing their final game or not. But I think there's a couple points of motivation, a couple different points of motivation, I think, for this game for Wisconsin. One, certainly the seniors going out on a high note. That's a big part of it. Two, playing for Luke Fickell for the first time. Kind of like a first impression opportunity for them. He's seen them in practice these last 3 weeks, but now it's a game type situation. It's your first chance to really make an impression on him in a game situation. And perhaps most of all, I think it's sending Jim Leonard out with a win and playing well for him, considering how many of these guys wanted him to be the coach, wanted him to be the next head coach of Wisconsin, and the way that how disappointed they were when he was not named that. I think that there's some motivation in a couple of different spots for them, and I think Jim Leonard probably is at the top of it.
So let's start with Fickell first. So what has he determined and said, this is exactly what I'm going to be doing, or is he just an overseer in this one?
I think he's just an overseer. I mean, he's not calling the defense. Jim Leonard's calling the defense, not having anything to do with the offense. That's going to be Bobby Engram taking care of that. Kind of just like what it's been for these last, since Paul Chryst was fired. I think it's kind of how things are going to run. Now, if they are going to decide whether to go for fourth down or not, maybe that's going to be his call. Or, various small little things. You can accept the penalty? No? All right. Like that type of stuff that a head coach usually does. But I think he's kind of going hands off with this, Bill, just to give them a chance, one more shot, one more chance to, as a staff and as a team, to play together. And he's just going to be the guy on the sideline overseeing it all. I don't think he's going to have a huge role at all tonight.
So I guess you've got guys that are also looking over their shoulder because the transfer portal has been very active. There's been a lot of, fence looking over for a lot of people that say, hey, this team looking up for next year's looks like they're going to be pretty good. Guys are going to be playing for position, possibly. And so there's a lot of different and maybe individual motivations, team motivations, sentimentality motivations. There's a lot of emotion that goes into this game for a team that is 6-6 and really not playing in a prime bowl. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're without their three captains, Graham Mertz, Nick Herbig, Keanu Benton, not a part of this game. They have guys that have entered the transfer portal that are not going to be part of this game. They have guys that entered the transfer portal and came back out of the transfer portal. One will be a part of this game in Michael Furtney. But I think there's going to be a lot of guys with decisions to make. I don't think the movement's done. Just because they haven't jumped to the transfer portal in the last, since it opened December 5th, doesn't mean they won't jump in after this. I think there's a number of guys who could potentially do that, and this may be their last hurrah to, maybe, I don't know, decide or maybe show that the coaching staff, specifically Luke Fickell, that they deserve to stick around and want to stick around and fight, for a job at Wisconsin. But, I certainly don't think the movement is done for Wisconsin either way, whether it's guys going out or guys coming back in. Or it's not guys coming back in, but guys coming in from other places.
Let's go to Jim Leonard real quick. Obviously, he would love to go out on a high note after announcing that he's not going to be coming back. What then is next for Jim Leonard, do you think?
Wouldn't we all like to know? I think if anything we've learned in the last month is wait for Jim Leonard to tell you what he's going to do, instead of trying to guess or trying to report on what he's going to do. Maybe let's just, because it's proven that we don't know what Jim Leonard's thinking. We don't know exactly how he's feeling and what his decisions are going to be. So we'll let it play out. The one thing I will say, him sticking around and coaching the bowl game would seemingly put him out of contention for any head coaching jobs at other college programs, unless it's a small school. I don't know if there's any Power 5 jobs. I don't think there are any Power 5 jobs still open. So it would be a smaller school. And it feels like a lot of guys have their defense coordinators as well. at least college-wise. So potentially the NFL, potentially sit out. I don't know, Bill. No one's had a chance to talk to him. He hasn't spoken since after the Minnesota game, so it's a really difficult situation to read. All I know is that he would obviously love to be the head coach of Wisconsin. He's not. Now he's got a decision to make.
All the speculation is that he hasn't taken another job because the Packers are going to come calling eventually. Do you buy into that?
Yeah. I mean, they came calling 2 years ago. I don't know, and there's certainly I mean, despite what happened in the fourth quarter last Sunday, there's really nothing to sit here and say that he shouldn't be considered again, and that Joe Barry should have a job at the end of this. And we'll see. Maybe they make a run down the stretch and blah, blah, blah happens, and all of a sudden Joe Barry stays on. I just can't see that. I don't see any way that happens. You would think Jim Leonard would be at the top of Matt LaFleur's list just like he was 2 years ago. Now, would Jim take that? I think he probably would this time around if it was offered.
Let's go to the team on the field. Oklahoma State, no pushover by any stretch of the imagination. What is this matchup going to contain tonight, and where are some of the keys in this ball game?
That's a great question, and I have no clue. Because like Wisconsin, I'm just being honest.
Right.
They are without their starting quarterback, without their leading rusher, without several key pieces all over the place. They had double-digit number of guys enter the transfer portal. Other guys decided they didn't want to play. So they're going to start a true freshman at quarterback, I believe, and Garrett Rangel. The only other quarterback, I believe, that would have a chance to play is Mike Gundy's son, who had a little bit of time. So, Garrett Rangel played in a few games this year, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, nothing overwhelming whatsoever. I know very little about Oklahoma State as a team based on what it is right now. What we know as them as a team is off to a great start and a really horrible finish. They started out 5-0, and I think they finished 2-5. So it was a really great start to a year, and then they kind of hit rough patches against some better teams. The schedule kind of picked up, and it was obviously a disappointing season for them. But I think just like Wisconsin, they're kind of looking towards next year. I think we're going to see they probably want to see some of their young guys play in this type of situation, and it kind of be like a preview. I don't want to call it a spring game, but kind of like a preview maybe of what Oklahoma State will look like next year. And again, I think Wisconsin's kind of in the same place.
When we look at the matchup of these two teams, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of misnomers. You just maybe just don't know anything about them. So how is it to prepare for a game like this when you've got so many different people that are missing? What are players saying? Because you're accustomed to players are creatures of habit, as you know, Zach, and this is what you do. This is where you practice. This is where you go. This is the guy you're used to. How difficult has this been for just the players individually when you talk to them to say you're playing a game without a lot of your guys?
Yeah, I mean, the guys that we've gotten to talk to, I don't want to say this game, like it hasn't been at the top of the when players, but I think you're preparing for skiing at this point. And it's I don't think it's different than, when you're playing a backup quarterback that hasn't played, or you're playing, against a new defense coordinator with a new team. It's kind of like you have to go back and look what they did at their previous spot, or you have to go and look at what the quarterbacks, some of the things that he can do well, whether he can move with his feet. Like there's very little that you can take other than say, this is what Oklahoma State does, and this is what we're going to have to deal with. But I think there's always going to be, and it doesn't matter what game it is, there's always going to be things that you haven't seen before. They're going to pop up, and you're going to have to adjust. And I think that's certainly going to be the case tonight when you have, 3 weeks to prepare, and you have a lot of guys that haven't played a ton, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, I don't know how fascinating it will be for the average fan, but I'm excited to see some of these young guys play.
Well, that's my next question. I mean, I guess what are the fans like out there that are just excited about it? I mean, that obviously it's warm weather, so you get a chance to get out of Wisconsin, which has been so cold. But is it the same contingent, the same following that you're accustomed to, or is it because it's a lesser bowl and it wasn't a successful season, and so, coaching changes and such that there's a lot of people that are just like, we're just here to be here?
Well, I think the benefit of being in Arizona is a large. Where do Wisconsin people go when they get older?
Oh yeah.
Say. How many are out here already? Snowbirds. So you're going to have that group. I think you're going to have obviously the diehards. But no, this isn't
a big time bowl game. But I think getting out of Wisconsin, getting to Phoenix after what the weather has been like, probably is attractive to people. The plane I came in on yesterday had a healthy share of Wisconsin fans on it, so there are going to be people there. But it's not a big bowl game. It's not one of those ones that draws you. You're not going to be seeing 35,000 fans, from Wisconsin. But they'll be well represented. And again, I think people are just excited to see another football game. And all the stuff that's been off the field for the last month, you actually get to see this team close out a game or close out a season after that really poor taste you have in your mouth after the Minnesota game.
First of all, I haven't talked to you since since signing day and the portal had opened up. Give me your thoughts on what's gone on with this Badger football team personnel wise since the end of the season, since the portal opened up, and since signing day.
I don't know how you can't be excited. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how if you're a Badgers fan, I don't know how you can't be excited about some of the things they did, signing day wise. And, you had 2 weeks, 3 weeks to keep a class together, and they lost some guys and some guys that they wanted, but they also bring in 2 4-star defensive backs. I don't believe that's the first time that's happened in quite some time. You get a corner in Jonas Tacona, who's just a great player that is going to fit perfectly in the secondary for them. So he brought 3 guys from Cincinnati, but I think it's the quarterbacks that have to excite you. And I know Ben Kenny's not a big fan of Nick Evers, but he has the physical traits that you want in this offense for Phil Longo. And what they get in him, and hopefully for their sake, they go out and get a veteran starter or a veteran to come in and be able to maybe play next year. Like a Brennan Armstrong maybe comes in, and you're able to kind of build Nick Evers up a little bit. But the physical traits that Nick Evers has is exactly what you want in this offense. And then they go and a week later get a commitment from another 4-star guy in Mabry Mettauer, who didn't like Wisconsin's offense. He came in September, and he did not like it when they played Washington State. Loved everything else about the university. Did not like the offense. And so he wasn't going to come to Wisconsin, but he was offered by Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. He was offered by Phil Longo at North Carolina. And when Phil Longo came up here, it just made perfect sense. And I think you're going to see that happen at the quarterback spot. And when you can have talent at quarterback, I think it attracts, especially this early in the class for Mabry Mettauer, who can't sign until this time next year. You're going to have a guy that's able to recruit and bring some, I think, potentially bring some even better athletes on the outside. It's got to be attractive to those guys. This offense is going to be attractive to those guys. We'll see if he can help in that. But again, I don't know how you can't be excited about what they have done to this point.
Real quick before I let you go. So we've talked about what it's like out there, and Ben talked about it being sandal weather for one Zach Heilprin. Is Zach Heilprin sporting the sandals in the warmer weather out in Arizona? Although it's actually been kind of cold out there.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be 72 today. So,
that's not bad. It's rebounding nicely.
Yeah, but when I got in last night, it was hilarious. I came into the resort where they have the media stain and drove up, and I was in shorts and like a really light jacket, and the people that were opening the doors for everybody was in long hats, long sleeves, gloves. It was hilarious. And then we went to Top Golf last night, and everybody had their heaters out of their bays, and me and a couple other media members just absolutely not, just chilling in shorts and very light tops. So I did not bring my sandals here for such a short amount of time. I didn't think I'd have a lot of ability to get out and do anything. So that was a mistake on my part. But otherwise, fantastic weather out here.
There you go. Good stuff, Zach. We appreciate it, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
All right, sounds good, Bill.
All right, bud. Talk to you later. There you go. Zach Heilprin enjoying some of the weather and showing them how it's done out in Arizona. Good stuff from him. And this portion of the program brought to you by our good friends over there at who I already mentioned them, as a matter of fact. Four Seasons Island Resort. I'm sorry. Lost track of the show there for a second. Four Seasons Island Resort up there in beautiful Pembine, Wisconsin, where they have they got the trails that are open. So if you're doing the sled thing and you want to take your snowmobile up there, do it. Snowmobiles and all that kind of good stuff. You have those trails that are open now, and everything's powder covered. So it's good stuff. And how about if you want to say stay indoors, get a room, get a weekend, go to the pool, go down to Boundary Waters Bar and Grill, listen to music, or maybe go over into the UP up to Pine Mountain, which is one of their sister places. and to do a little skiing up there, you can. All you got to do is get a hold of our girl, Barb, B-A-R-B, Barb at the4seasonswisconsin.com. That is Barb at the4seasonswisconsin.com. Get a hold of her. 715-324-5800. 715-324-5800. The best part about it, you say, Barb, Bill Michaels 15. She knows what that means. It means you get 15% off your stay. That's fantastic. You get, just for listening to the program, you can make some money back. B-A-R-B, Barb at the4seasonswisconsin.com, or call her 715-324-5800. Use the code Bill Michaels 15 for 15% off your stay. Nice at the Four Seasons Island Resort.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Ho, ho, ho! I need a window.
Baby, it's cold outside.
So where do I go? Ho, ho.
Come on, Santa. Go to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Now is the time to replace your leaky windows and doors. You and Mrs. Claus can get your new windows while putting no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. Unwrap this gift now, but pay for it 2 years later.
More jingle that stays in my pocket.
That's right, Santa. Plus, our elves install year-round and in as little as 1 day. Pella offers lines in luxurious wood to fiberglass and vinyl.
Why not make a New Year's resolution today?
That's the spirit, Santa.
Hella no, pay later. Ho, ho.
Absolutely. Put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. But you have to hurry. Offer ends December 31st. Schedule your free consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Sure, listed the license show for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
taking my advice last week, and you got a hold of our friend Paul Roberts at Roberts Specialty Meats. I was down there this past week. I was down there on Thursday, and we picked up our prime rib, 5.25 pounds of prime rib. Never had cooked it before. Kristen had never cooked one. I've never cooked one. Never did the prime rib. So I talked to Paul a little bit. He said, well, this is kind of how you do it, but make sure you pull it out about 3 hours before you cook it. But when you do it, roll it around in salt, salt the thing, and that way it'll tenderize as it sits and gets a room temperature before you put it in the oven. And you put it in the oven, you turn it way up to like 500 and something degrees. You crispy up the outside for like 15 minutes, 15, 17 minutes, and then you lower the temperature, and then you slow cook that thing all afternoon. I got to tell you, the outside was crusty. We had rolled it in pepper and seasoning from our friends at Burn Pit Barbecue. Rolled that thing in pepper
And some seasoning. And oh my God, you could cut into it. You could hear the outer layer crunch, not burnt crunch, but like crusty crunch. It was so good. The inside was pink. It was like a medium rare. It was perfect. And oh my God, what a great cut of meat. It was fantastic. And it was from our friend down there at Robert's Specialty Meats. Took the sauce that had dripped off of it, had a little bit of an au jus, had some mashed potatoes with it, some green beans, some corn, some biscuits, and all that kind of good stuff for Christmas dinner. Oh, it was so good. So good. And then there were the pies, of course, but the meat itself from Robert's Specialty Meats down in Waukesha could not have been any better, and the advice couldn't have been any better. Thanks to our friends Paul Roberts and the gang down there at Robert's Specialty Meats in Waukesha. Go to robertsspecialtymeatswaukesha.com on Sunset Drive in Waukesha. Robert's Specialty Meats Waukesha.com. That stuff was so good. So good. 877-867-1670. You want to hit us up. By the way, the update on the poll question, Packers fans, where do you get the credit for the Green Bay Packers win against the Miami Dolphins? Now 204 votes in. 21 hours left to vote on the poll question over on the Twitter page, at Bill_Michaels. 61.8% of you say Tua gave the game away. 38.2% of you believe the Packers just played better. So not a lot of faith in the Packers, but more so the fact that Tua just gave it away. So in other words, and as this one's from Randy, he says, if the Packers are going to get to the postseason and do any real damage, let's be honest, the quarterbacks they play, think about this now, in Cousins and Goff, are going to have to give the Packers defense chance after chance after chance. And if they capitalize on it, only then will this crappy offense do anything with the football. On a short field, they can pick up a couple of first downs and then kick. After that, not much. Aaron Rodgers is past his prime. Matt LaFleur doesn't know what the hell he's doing. The offensive line looks inept, and nobody knows where to go. All this thing on the same is a joke. When back in the can take on another receiver almost instantaneously, it takes Rodgers 8 years to finally get into sync with somebody. By then, they're past their prime or they're off to another team. Rodgers is a joke. This team is a joke. LaFleur is a joke. They need to fire everybody and just start over. It's time for Jordan Love. That is from Randy. You don't get much more pessimistic than that. You really don't. Let's go to Eric, listening to us in Green Bay. Eric, how you doing today, man? What's going on? How you been?
I was doing great. I was thinking about prime rib until that last email. Holy cow, Randy.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise, dude. You know how, I don't know. Wow. I don't know what you're watching, but I'm just going to say I disagree strongly.
He is the extreme of negativity.
Right. I mean, LaFleur is driving me crazy with all the shotgun RPO stuff. He is. That's driving me nuts, especially when you see the play action and Rodgers under center working so much better. But, you know, I hear a lot of people talking negativity about Rodgers, and this last guy was a perfect example. I mean, give me a break. The dude dropped a perfect dime to Mercedes Lewis and to Alan Lazard.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the point of my call, really. Those guys were wearing their defenders like their jersey all the way down the field.
Right.
This has been something that Rodgers has been victimized his whole career. It happened in college. It's almost like the referees union gets together at the beginning of the season and says, now we can't really flag Rodgers, the defenders of Rodgers for pass interference or holding as much as we should, because then they just run away with every game, because the amount of holding that's going on. Yeah, Watson got overthrown. That would have been probably about 40-yard some odd touchdown strike. The guy was jerking on his jersey the whole way down the field.
Right.
The entire route, he's got a guy jerking on his jersey. The jersey's stretching out, just like they flagged, whoever was Kevin King against Tampa Bay for a hold. I mean, the same thing is going on all the way down the field, right past the referee. They are not throwing any flags for pass interference or for defensive holding on the teams that are playing the Packers. And I don't know what it is. It's almost like it's their idea to level the playing field and bring parity or something, but it's ridiculous, man. It is ridiculous. This entire season, and really the last, it's horrendous. And I don't know why more people aren't talking about it, because that's one thing that is happening, and it will. I mean, you overthrow a guy. Well, if you got a guy hanging on your jersey all the way down the field, you're not going to be at the point where the ball is supposed to be, because you had a guy hanging on your jersey all the way down the field. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Phil?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And yes, and I even alluded to that yesterday and today. I said, look, you can say what you want about Rodgers, and there's times that he should have thrown the football, and I agree with that. But there was also 5 passes in that game that only Rodgers could make when he was rolling out, and that flick to Alan Lazard down the sideline. You talked about the pass to Big Dog and the play action pass. Even though Big Dog was wide open, he played it beautifully coming out of the fake, something only Aaron Rodgers does so incredibly well. I mean, there was so many things that he did well in that game that you can say, I'm not throwing Aaron Rodgers out just because you feel like he doesn't see things or do things properly. I still think he's incredibly solid, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you really think they'd be still looking at the playoffs if they had given up and put Jordan Love in earlier?
No.
And no slap on Jordan Love. He's a good kid, man. That guy's got his head screwed on straight.
Yep.
And when he was asked this season, hey, do you think you can do what Aaron Rodgers does with it? Nope.
Right.
Didn't even think about it. Just, nope. So he's just sitting there sponging everything up, learning. And who knows, man, with his patience and when Rodgers is gone, if he decides to stick around and nobody tries to get him off of them and stuff, we might really have a diamond there, in that kid. And certainly has the right head for it. And between the ears, it's wonderful.
Yep. No, I would agree. I hopefully appreciate the phone call as always, Eric. Hopefully, now here's 2 things. Remember, next year, if they decide to hang on to Jordan Love, they can make that contract very low for him early on. And that way you can see what you have in Aaron Rodgers, and then you can make a transition over to Jordan Love in that year after if you choose to do so. There's no fire right now lit under the Green Bay Packers having to make a move. They don't have to do anything at this point, right? So they can just kind of ride it out if they choose to do so, and they're good to go. Now, the other side of this is, if, say, the Packers continue on and they do get into the postseason, well, then you're probably not going to see a lot of Jordan Love. Okay? Probably just not going to happen. So if they do ride it out, you've seen a couple of series of Jordan Love. Who knows? Maybe a team calls during the offseason and says, hey, we really need to trade for a quarterback. Is Jordan Love available? And if you want to do that, maybe you can go back and get something higher end for him. Maybe you could do that. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong with hanging on to him for one more year and having to see if this year, say, for some of the talk of Aaron Rodgers and the diminishment of skills, which I still think is bogus. Every good player has that 1 year apparition. And if it drops off a little bit, then it's going to come back next year threefold, more experience, more reliability. The younger guys now get an offseason to go rest and relax, and then to begin to do nothing but absorb Green Bay Packer football. They build themselves body-wise up a little bit. Things get a little bit better. You come back, you're even that much better. Find yourself one more wide out to give you a little bit of depth of weaponry. Who knows what can happen? Then you can make a decision the year after. Not overly concerned about it right now. Right now, just get yourself into the postseason if you can and see what can happen. That's it. I am never, ever one for tanking. Not unless you're sitting here right now with, 13 losses on the season. I'm never one for tanking. Just never have been. You want to see your team win. You want to see them build on something and move into the next season. That's what you always want to see. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. This portion brought to you by our friends at the Water Doctors. H2, the letter O, doctors.com. John Atlee and the crew, they got your back covered. Well, really covered with water because clean water, nice water, good water, soapy water, all that kind of good stuff, whether it's doing your laundry, jumping in the shower, maybe it's a drinking water. The reverse osmosis is fantastic. H2odoctors.com. That's H2O, the letter O, doctors.com. Or call John and the gang, 262-549-7733. The Water Doctors in Waukesha, but they are all over the great state of Wisconsin with the Connecticut water softening system, and it is by far the best. By far the best I have ever had. And I've hung on to this thing for years and years, and 2 decades now, because that's how much I love this piece of equipment. The Connecticut water softening system is fantastic. Again, call John, 262-549-7733, or go to H2, the letter O, doctors.com.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisconsin isn't snobby, snooty, or pretentious. It's Midwestern charm at its finest. And that's exactly what Forgotten Fire Winery in Peshtigo is all about. Fun in a bottle without the attitude. You can find their full wine and cider lineup in their tasting room or in liquor and grocery stores throughout the state. The winery is a great place to get away for wine and cider tastings, great live music, and private events all year long. Remember, any time is a great time for Forgotten Fire wines and ciders. Wisconsin wine made from Wisconsin people.
Quick Trip brings you quick, hot savings. We're making a splash this month with our Nature's Touch milk. Just $2.99 a gallon. All our 1 gallon, 2%, 1%, and skim Nature's Touch milk is on sale and ready to hit your fridge. Oh, how can you beat fresh, straight from our dairy milk that's ready for movie night milkshakes or to make those morning waffles extra fluffy? Hey, we got you covered with quick, hot savings only at Quick Trip.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Something to ring in the new year. I just saw the advertisement over on Facebook for Forgotten Fire Winery. The Moscato is loaded up and ready to go. If you're looking for it in any of your local grocery stores, wine stores, or in the text-to-go area, pick up a bottle or case, 2 or whatever. And Forgotten Fire Winery, go to ForgottenFireWinery.com. That's ForgottenFireWinery.com. And ring in the new year with a good bottle of local, right here, local wine. That is our friend Forgotten Fire Winery. Okay. 825 yards. Think about that. 825 yards. That's one of the leaders so far in 6. This Keyshawn Nixon. 825 compared to some of the others that have been doing it all season long. And he's obviously got brains right now. He's working a bit, which isn't terrific if he was. Keyshawn Nixon up there with the league leaders in return yardage already. And imagine what he'll probably be a special teams global career. Had it now this it's mind-boggling to me how they missed for a guy that was begging them. He did what he was supposed to do. He did what he was asked to do, but he had been begging them to give him a shot at it. Yeah. Go away. We got a third down to do. This guy's great. Oh, okay. I'll wait my turn. Oh, there's the phone bill. It's astounding that it took the Packers personnel-wise this long to play on this. Just mind-boggling. And you saw a difference in Romeo Doubs. As fast as the Doubs is, there is something about the ability to make people miss and take angles and then accelerate that some people have and some don't. And Keyshawn Nixon just he flies. He makes it look, I don't know if it's slower and they don't take a great angle or what, but he's just fine. It's amazing to watch the guy work.
Glides. Keyshawn Nixon, one of the top returners in the entire National Football League. There you have it. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670 if you want to give us a shout. So, Ben, now you throw this at me. Two things. Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee said that it looks like David Bakhtiari is going to be back this week. Correct?
That is what he said.
That is what
he said. I'm confident in saying that he is trending towards playing.
Okay. So that's big news. And then you said, oh, by the way, for the record, now you think Jordan Love would have beaten LA, beaten Chicago, and also beaten the Dolphins this past weekend?
Yeah, I heard Eric say that, what if we had gone to Love and wouldn't be in the same position? I think I'd argue that the team would be in the same position they are right now. And there's some locker room dynamics that play into it, which I can't really quantify. But if you look at the pure production and the pure level that Rodgers played at, I think the Packers definitely would have beaten Chicago with Love. I think they definitely would have beaten the Rams. The Rams were terrible. And then with Miami, with where they were starting drives and the amount of turnovers the defense forced, I think Love would have won that game as well.
Okay. I don't know. So it's difficult for me to say. I just, because I can't unsee what Love did in Kansas City. I can't unsee what Love did in Detroit last year with opportunities. I can't unsee what he did against Philadelphia. I don't know what to make of him right now. I just don't. I can say that for certainty, he would probably run the offense and take the reads and take the checkdowns more often than Rodgers, maybe moving the sticks more, maybe getting the offense in rhythm more. Maybe I could be fairly confident in saying that. But as far as making big plays, because Tua, it was interesting. Did you watch, I don't know what was, I think it was Get Up. Did you watch Get Up yesterday morning? Or were you flying?
No,
okay.
I was flying.
So yesterday morning, I watched Get Up, and I was listening to Rex Ryan and Ryan Clark go back and forth. And they said, is Tua exposed? And Rex Ryan said, and I thought it was interesting, he said, I've been saying this all season. Tua is a one-read quarterback. He will throw the ball where he's not looking. He locks on one guy, will try to make it look like he's making a read, but he goes back to the guy that's supposed to get the ball. And teams are baiting him into some of those throws because it's not just over this past weekend where he started throwing picks. He's been throwing picks. So that's the other aspect of this where everybody wants to blame it on the concussion. Okay, you can say it to a certain extent, but he's also been throwing picks leading up to this as well. The second half of his season has been nowhere near as good as the first half of his season. So, and the big throw that he had down the sideline, it was a good play. It was missed. It was a broken coverage and a misplay to Waddle. And then the big pass to Tyreek Hill down the middle. Tell me why in the world Amos and Rudy Ford were covering him. Neither one looked like they should have him. Rudy Ford looked like a kindergartner running after a high schooler, where his arms were flailing, legs were flailing, looked like he was on skates. Both guys looked at each other like we weren't supposed to have him. That was almost blown coverage as well. So it wasn't like Tua was making these big-time reads and these incredible throws. He was just putting it where they weren't, and guys were trying to catch up. Why Jair wasn't on him or shadowing him consistently, I have no idea. But I just don't know if you get Love in there, if after a few games he isn't a one-read quarterback or an exposed quarterback. And that's the thing, that's the unknown. And that's why when people say, oh, no, he'd be great. I don't know that he'd be great. I don't know that he would be. I don't know that he'd be past one or two reads. I don't know if he'd be able to do that. If he'd be able to. Now, granted, he's had some time to learn behind one of the mental bests to ever play the game, but I don't know that he would know that. I think he'd be good, but I don't know if he'd be great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good point. And I agree. Definitely as you go through weeks, coaches would be able to scheme against what he does well. I guess my larger point isn't about Love. I don't think the Packers are necessarily winning these games because Rodgers is playing that well. I don't think he's
No, I agree with that. I would agree with that. I think he's been an average quarterback who has made some big plays. And that's what average quarterbacks do, average to above average. He has not played like Aaron Rodgers this season. And he can sit here and talk about timing, and he can talk about all the different things that go into being a better quarterback. But when other quarterbacks get, look, Patrick Mahomes got Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Suddenly Marquez Valdez-Scantling was a true deep threat, and they were going to him. Now, he didn't have much time to work with him. He didn't have 3 years. You know, Tyreek Hill, suddenly Tua is going to him. And Tyreek Hill's Tyreek Hill. Great talents, I get. I understand that. But Derek Carr not working consistently, even though they had a relationship in college, that's far different from the years that he's played here in Green Bay. All of a sudden, boom, he's getting 16, 17 passes a game and still catching 12. All these other quarterbacks that get in sync with their guys right here, right now, they're not using the excuse of, well, it takes time and the timing's off in this. Look at Mike Evans and Tom Brady look horrible together, and they played together. They look horrible. Quarterback doesn't look good. He's underthrowing balls, overthrowing balls. He doesn't look set. It looks like his arm strength or his timing is off. And these guys have played together. I just think sometimes you use that whole thing as a crutch and as an excuse that's built in for ineptitude. Sometimes you just need to get in there and do it. And I think Rodgers has had that cushion because he's been Aaron Rodgers. He's won MVPs. He's won a Super Bowl. He's put this team in prime position numerous times on his own back to be successful in the postseason. But I think at this point in time, we're looking at it going, you get a pass. No, you don't. This season, this offseason specifically, if he's coming back, has to be the dedication to the season. I completely believe that. I'm way, way, way late for a break. Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers getting ready to host the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. Kickoff at Lambeau Field is at 3:25. The Packers defense came up with 4 takeaways in their win over the Dolphins in Miami that began with Jerron Reed with a forced fumble and recovery just before the half. Nose tackle Kenny Clark.
That was huge. And we started feeling that their offensive line started wearing down. And Jay Reed did a great job. He got put in the position at the 5 tech. Dean went down, so we needed him to step up and play the 5. And he did a great job getting off the block and getting the fumble and the recovery.
The Packers gave up several deep balls to the Dolphins, including an 84-yard touchdown pass to Jalen Waddle, their longest play of the season. At halftime, Packers secondary coach Jerry Gray chewed his players out. They responded with 3 interceptions in the second half. Jair Alexander.
With any good secondary, it's always good leadership, and that's from the coaching down to the players. It was just reiterated, and once it's reiterated, it's like, okay, we get it now. We get it. These guys are fast, but we're still good. We're still like the best secondary in the league. And that's something that we've been working on all year. So.
And the Broncos fired their head coach and former Packers offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. Denver now 4-11 after being blown out by the Rams. Matt LaFleur.
It's a ugly part of this business, part of that, you never like to see, especially when it's somebody you care about. And, I feel for him and his family.
That's Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
Now that you made the decision to get married, you still want the engagement ring or wedding ring or band set or what have you, and you're still thinking, well, maybe I'll do this in July. That's okay. Let Kane & Kane Jewelers in West Bend rock your world. Go to Kane Jewelry, K-O-E-H-N, KaneJewelry.com. Don't forget, if you go to the website, go to the bottom there in the Buy Like a podcast, click on it and like it. And subscribe to it. And Andy does the podcast and jewelry buying and other stuff too. I mean, everything from bourbon tasting to whatever, but good stuff from our friends at Kane & Kane Jewelers in West Bend. It's worth the drive. It really is. Again, if you use any of our sponsors, I always want to hear from you, especially after this time of year where we start to get some feedback where people get out and they try things and such, and it's enjoyable. So try our friends at Kane & Kane Jewelers. You'll be good to go. So coming up tonight, we got the Badgers and in the bowl game. So we got that going on this evening. Heading downtown, going to watch the Admirals tonight over at the UW Panther Arena. You got Marquette in action tonight downtown as well. So it's going to be a busy night for college hoops. Nice. Speaking of college hoops, when you talk about the rankings, it's nice to have the Badgers in there. You've got Marquette that has been in and out of the top 25, but they've played some good basketball this season. As a matter of fact, word has it, we might be getting Shaka Smart on the program, Ben.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, to clean up my act then.
Just an FYI, yeah. The great things happen when you go out. And we were at Calderon Club in Fox Point over the weekend, and ran into we'll just say some people. I don't want to give out names and stuff if they don't want it out there, but said, yeah, love to come on the program. So we're going to set that up.
Shaka Smart actually once watched me play a JV basketball game when I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
And
it's definitely why he was there in the gym.
That's what I
terribly.
Heard. Yeah.
No, I was off. No, we were playing this great school that had 2 kids that ended up going to play for him at VCU. So he was there for the varsity game. JV always plays before, and I was swing, so I would play on both, or I would play on one, sit on the bench on the other. But he showed up in the gym for the second half, and I went 0 for 7.
Then he walked away disappointed that you weren't more of an impact player. But I'm sure he was there to see you.
Well, I did do the whole, the worst shot is the one you don't take thing, where if you keep missing, you just keep shooting and eventually it'll go in.
You're a
Maybe
chucker.
he enjoyed that.
No.
Oh,
okay. I can see that.
It's like Rodgers airing it out down the field to
He's gotta
receivers that can't catch.
Got to keep trying. Yeah. Got to keep trying. So, by the way, Marquette, they still received, I think it's 12 votes to be in the top 25, but they had fallen off. They got beat by Providence. So they're back at it again tonight, downtown Milwaukee as well. So now we got to get Greg Gard in the program. Got to get Greg Gard back in the fold. Got to get Gardo back. See what happens there. All right, that'll do it. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. Tomorrow's the Wednesday edition. Coming up the week, though, we're going to have Paul Allen, the voice of the Vikings, going to be joining us. Wayne Larrabee's going to be joining us. I got a nice text from Stacey Dales over the weekend. So hopefully we get Stacey on the program. We're going to be loaded this week as we start to effort more towards and get that ball really rolling downhill for the NFL postseason. So there you go. Until then, we'll see you at the hockey game tonight if you're going downtown. See you down at Calderon Club, San Giorgio and such. Good stuff down there. Can't wait. Face first. I'll be the one with a snorkel and some goggles and pasta all over my face.